What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you're all doing well. It's Jay, it's Craig, it's Sports Clichés, episode 3. Hope you're all looking forward to another great weekend of NFL football after what was quite a surprising Thursday night game.
Yeah, yeah, that's a word for
Well,
it.
and we'll just jump right into it. I mean, that was I mean, Baltimore has like kind of played down in some of these games. For sure. Like they've kept them way too close in some of them. I there's no way you would expect this against Miami, but Miami came out firing, and you know, eh, will they do anything to really shake up that NFC East? Probably not. Probably still the third team, right? But maybe
At
fourth
best.
team. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say 13 at best.
But I mean that's just I think this is this game. It's just one of those, and Baltimore has looked like they could drop these kind of games in the past. So it finally came around, and yeah, they just never looked in it really at any point. Maybe
Nah,
early when it
and
was still a score, but that's about it.
reinforcing old narratives, right? Like you hate to see it, but man, Lamar Jackson was turned into a pocket passer again, and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't look comfortable doing it. Like 26 of 43 for 238, a touchdown and a pick. You're not gonna win many games with that stat line, right? That's not good enough. And I think anytime you force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball 43 times, you're probably going to beat the Ravens more often than not. But B, low completion percentage, a pick, not a ton of yards for 26 reception or for 26 completions, right? Like it's just those stats aren't going to do it for you. Like no, Jacoby Brissett and Tua didn't particularly light the world on fire, but they didn't make mistakes, right? And Lamar was making mistakes all over the place. You know, the the apocalypse came early. Justin Tucker missed a field goal. It, it was just one of those nights for the Ravens where nothing worked, and we're now 9 games into the season for Baltimore, and I still have no idea what the fuck they are as a team.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're a contender. I don't know. They're Schrodinger's Super Bowl contender, right? Until the Super Bowl happens, they simultaneously exist as both a contender and not a contender, and I'm not sure which one it is.
I mean, I think some of the one of the most egregious plays I saw from that game was Sammy Watkins just forgetting that he was a receiver in the back of the end zone there, and just like that ball, like it could have hit off the hands, whatever you can interpret that however you want, but just the I don't know the lack of going for that, pulling up right there, and that ball landing like pretty much right at the back line. Like you think, like if they get it lined up, everything's going well. That's potentially a nice little touchdown in the back of the end zone. But you know, and you bring up, what do you think of the Ravens? And absolutely, that's kind of been the case. But I mean, that AFC North, you take a look at everybody in there. What do you think of any of those teams really? And it's gonna be. I mean, it's really a toss up. I mean, you gotta imagine uh, Pittsburgh, and we'll go into the full slate as we go
Yeah.
further on here. But I mean, you got to imagine Pittsburgh picking up kind of a gimme W right there, so they're going to even it up potentially against the Ravens. And yeah, with the you know crazy kind of roller coaster that Cleveland and Cincinnati have felt as of late, who knows? You talk about teams potentially slipping to 500. Can they actually rise up and get to back to number one? I mean, it seems like so not that long ago. You're talking about
Yeah.
two weeks, and Cincinnati's riding high there, and all of a sudden they're looking at the bottom of the league or the bottom of the division. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
you look at that AFC North, and again, we'll go back through like games from last week, games from this week. We'll talk about that. The Browns might be the best team in it. They're getting healthy now, right? Like a lot of that Browns early start, I think a lot of people don't realize how hurt they were. They were missing their whole defensive line for a couple games. Everybody on the defensive line was hurt, right? Like they're getting healthy now. They were a good team last year. They might be it, but man, I don't know what to make of the Ravens.
Well,
I don't I don't know I don't know what they are. Right? They'll come out some weeks and just absolutely fire. And it's not like it's, oh well, they play well against good teams and bad against, or they play bad against bad teams and well against, you know what I'm trying to say here. I'm screwing up words. Um, but like, they have a good win against the Colts. They beat the Chiefs. Now, what you think of the Chiefs are not here or there. They should hypothetically be a good team, right? And then the Lions pegged them to within two. They lost to the Dolphins. The Vikings were within three. I don't get them. And then they destroyed the Chargers in there, right? Like, I don't get the Ravens. I don't. I don't know what. From week to week, they're a completely different team, and it's not even like, it's a, oh, good defenses play them better than bad defenses. There's no trend. Nothing makes sense with what they've done this year. They've played well against bad defenses and poorly against bad defenses. They've played well against good defenses and poorly against good defenses. It doesn't seem to matter. Whoever they play, you're getting a random team every week, right? And it makes them a really interesting watch down the stretch because they have a hard schedule. Like, their schedule from here on out, they got the Bears this week again, or next week, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. They should beat the Bears, but after that, Browns, Steelers, Browns, Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers. That's that's not fun, right? That's going to be a hard stretch. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Ravens. I really don't.
well, I think that they've all had these weird slopes. I would actually say that Cleveland looked outside of dropping the opening game, then they started to swing up and they actually looked good early, and then they started to look pretty bad as of late, just kind of scraping by when they can. But that last win, obviously against the Bengals, that kind of changed a lot of things. The Steelers looking really bad to start this season, and now they've rallied off four straight with a bye
I
week in
got
between.
gripes with the Steelers. We'll talk about that later.
Um, basically, I think these teams are obviously they're going to be beating up on one another as well. Obviously
Yeah.
within the division, a lot to be said there. I think what's interesting is all of them are going to. It seems like, I mean, that would be insane. And obviously they'll play each other, that sort of thing, but they're so inconsistent, and obviously no one's really been able to separate themselves out for maybe more than a week or so.
Yeah.
I mean, how many teams could you even see this? I think mathematically it's definitely possible, given they're not only just playing each other. I mean, mathematically this could be four teams finishing above 500, given a 17 game season,
Easily.
right? So you're talking about
Easily.
potentially even 9 and 8s in
Yeah.
there, getting that done. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Four teams going above 500 for this division is absolutely possible. So you got to imagine, you're taking at least two of these teams as far as the playoffs are concerned, when you're talking about division winner and probably one of these getting in the wild card. But you could be talking about three teams, and you read. Wouldn't that be hilarious if even the fourth team was like possibly right there in the scramble? So you would just basically fill the wild card out for the AFC with just a bunch of AFC North teams.
I
Could
don't know if that one can
Yeah,
happen.
that
'Cause
would be a stretch mathematically. I
there's
think
a few teams
that's
around that I
happen.
think we'll talk about that are real, that I think are real threats for a wild card spot and a
Yeah,
pretty good one. But
plenty of teams right in that area. AFC is
yeah,
quite a gonna be
it's a
quite a
grab bag right
slugfest.
now. It's a grab bag right now.
It's fun. It's real fun, and it's so unpredictable. Like
The
so.
AFC as a whole feels stronger than the NFC this year. Um, but boy, it's a lot of middling teams, eh?
But we will let's do that to just we'll take just a quick glimpse at some of the games from last week,
Yep.
and we'll flip the script because we're talking about whoever could win in the AFC. But who could win in the NFC? Them Atlanta Falcons. I
What
told
the
you, I
fuck, man?
told you it was my upset pick of the week. Bam,
He
money,
had it.
nailed it. I was what a way to win. But it's like you're talking about you're putting out Trevor Siemian out there. This is a New Orleans team that's pretty banged up. I actually just took a look, and it looks like Kamara is going to be out for
Yes, he
this
will.
weekend's game. So it's like
Looking to
you're gonna
drop
be
back in Mark
rocking.
Ingram.
You're gonna have Ingram there, and that's gonna be kind of cool because it looks like he's gonna pass up Deuce for all time leading rusher, potentially if he gets over like 20 something yards.
He'll do it.
Yeah, I gotta
Without
imagine they'll hand the
Kamara,
rock
he'll
to
do
him
it.
a bit. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean Atlanta. It's just like they had an ugly loss the previous week. Um, why not against a team that's a little banged up like New Orleans? Them having a letdown game, like I said, they're just one of those. They did not look 5-2, seemed like a little bit of an anomaly. They seem very much more middling and inconsistent, like those AFC North teams we were just talking about, and kind of showed it right there. They kind of just dropped the ball to a Falcons team that was ready.
As a Falcons fan, I'm going to say a sentence that only another Falcons fan will get.
Mm.
Because the Falcons managed to falcon that game only for the Saints to falcon the game more than the Falcons did. Falcons are cruising. 98% chance of winning a freaking, what was it? They were up like
Yeah.
24 to, what was it, 24 to 3 or whatever the
Oh
heck it
yeah,
was.
they're
They're
killing it.
cruising.
Yeah.
And then they bungled it. They pulled the Falcons, right? They choked it. Here we go again. Being a Falcons fan is consistent pain. And then we got to talk for a second about a guy who does not get enough love, and his name is Cordero Patterson. He's not a
Mm.
running back. He's not a wide receiver. He's a little bit of everything.
He's what the Niners
And
hoped Jalen Hurd was going to be until he never saw the field and we just cut him.
um, it's interesting with Cordero because there's some games where he'll run the ball really well, and other
Yeah.
games where he can't run at all, and some games where he'll catch the ball really well, and other games where he can't at all. But he always manages to do one of them well in every game, right? In this game, he was one of our best receiving options, right? The 6 for 126 is a little bit skewed because he had that 70-yarder at the end. But even still, Matt Ryan found Cordero Patterson constantly. Cordero Patterson needs a little bit more love than I think he gets. And as somebody who owns him in fantasy, I also understand that because he's constantly on the score sheet, right? The dude does everything you want him to, and boy did he bail us out in that game. That catch and run at the end. What was the Saints coverage there? I don't know. You're up 25-24 with 40 seconds left. You think, give them anything short, prevent anything beyond 10 yards, but they just decided to play press coverage. Whatever. You got burnt on it. Um I don't I don't know. Did the Braves winning the World Series destroy the Georgia curse? Who knows? I'm not sold on the Falcons still. Um I, are they a playoff team potentially? This week I think we'll talk about that when we get to this week. Will tell us a lot about the Falcons. Um, but yeah, it was a good win. Choking away another big league like that, you can't do that, right? And the Falcons tend to do it all the time. Oh, Matt Ryan, by the way. I will say this. I talked a lot of shit about Matt Ryan being an old man with an old man arm. He was slinging the rock in that game, man. He was throwing it. And if Matt Ryan can do that in a conference like I said that I don't think is quite as strong as the AFC, in a conference where I think 9-8 is enough to get you into the playoffs. I don't think you're going to need double digit wins to make the playoffs in the NFC. They could be there.
Yeah, I think absolutely can be in there. Yeah, if they, uh, you gotta not give up 20 plus points in the fourth when you have a game sealed like that. But it was it's understandable. I mean, teams when you are a middling team, kind of like the Falcons are, like you're kind of just there. The thing that's probably held you back in some of those games is not being able to truly close out. defense kind of gets worn out, that sort of thing. I think that probably happened to the Falcons there. When you're not driving the ball, you're not keeping possession. There's 10 minutes left and you're up by 18 points. You think that's pretty solid if you could at least have. I'd say you only really need one sustained drive. And, if you're able to even just get it to the 50 or so and at least pick up a couple first downs along the way, you got to think that's, with your standard play clock and that sort of thing, you're taking a few minutes just right there. And it's like that window really closes if you're just able to have one good drive. But when you're just going 3 and outs and defense is staying out there and they start getting exposed, it makes Trevor Siemian look a little better than he was showing for 3 quarters of that game, right? So
Yeah, he looked awful for the first 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, he looked like the rebirth of Drew Brees.
yeah, but if we want to talk about teams that just looked awful throughout their game, let's move on to my unfortunate my San Francisco 49ers. We'll drink to them. Actually, bourbon's in this one.
Can I be honest with you?
Mathematically it's not over, but damn was that game sad.
Can I be honest with you, Tat?
Oh, yeah.
I think your team stinks. I don't think they're that good. I think what we're learning about the Niners these last few weeks is 3-5 is about right for what they are. Right? I don't. They got torched by Colt McCoy. I didn't even know Colt McCoy was still in the NFL. He torched them.
Yeah.
He made them look like he was playing Indiana. Right? Like, that defense has issues, and I don't get it, because hypothetically they should be great. On paper, that defense should be incredible. But it's week after week of this now where teams come in and find ways to beat that defense. And it's not always the same way, right? We talked about their problem with scrambling quarterbacks. Colt McCoy is far from a scrambling quarterback. Colt McCoy beat him with his arm. And I don't know. Nick Bosa has been one of the biggest disappointments for me of the year as a whole. He has looked terrible at times this year.
Yeah, at times. I mean, his sack numbers are decent. He's got 7 sacks on the year, so that looks decent on the stat chart. But yeah, we were talking about it last week. Bosa, he gets caught in over pursuit, and every now and then, when he's, you kind of have that repeat, and they'll just kind of fan a pocket around. Arizona seemed to kind of have their way with giving McCoy enough time. I don't know, probably not a lot of pressures there. And I think in general, it's been the case for the Niners. You have a lot of injuries early on. It kind of takes the wind out of the sails. The team doesn't have the depth, especially in the defensive backfield. I mean, Verrett's only one guy, but there just wasn't enough, and we had to, we're having to pull in Josh Norman. I'm interested to see how D'Amico Ryans, he has been disappointing in his scheme calling so far, and I think that's been a bit of the reason why the Niners defense has looked as bad as they have. You can't let a guy like Colt McCoy look as good as he did on your defense, no matter what injuries you have. A lot of penalties too, a lot of bad penalties for the Niners, a lot of DPIs that have really hurt the team. So it doesn't look terrible stat wise as far as their defense is concerned, but we give up incredible amount of penalty yards. I think it has to be one of the most in the league, if not the most in the league. So you're never going to win games like that. And then turnovers. Not being able to get too many turnovers on our side and just having the worst differential of turnovers, I believe, in the league. That it makes a lot of sense at the 3-5. Surprisingly, though, with the worst turnover differential in the league, still 3-5. There's something to be said about that as well. For as bad as they've been, and injury ridden. They have had the ability to pull out some wins. They got This is going to be a tough one because it's you're talking about a Rams team that came off a very disappointing, and we'll talk about a couple of those ugly losses for teams this
It
past
was a
week.
weird week last week.
Very weird, very strange week. But when you have a depleted Arizona team like that, you'd expect a lot more fight in the Niners to because that could have changed a lot of things. That you're talking about a 400 or 400 a 4-4 a 500 record for the Niners at that point, and the ability to really start catching the Rams in a downslope, perhaps, even though they have just spent the farm with another player, and we'll talk about that as well, as far as OBJ and all that, and their previous acquisition of Vaughn, and it's just crazy over there. What that team's going to be? They obviously did not expect to have as bad of a game as they did last week, but that Rams Niners game is going to be a crazy one on Monday night.
Yeah, and just to finish a point that you made, they do lead the league in defensive pass interference with 11 of them.
Yeah.
As well, another interesting fact: San Francisco, eighth from the bottom in number of penalties committed this year. Third most yards given up by penalties. Right? They're
Yeah.
not committing, 5-yard offsides, little things like that. When they commit a penalty, it's a bad one. It's usually going for a lot of yards against them. It's flipping the field, and you can't do that. You look at the other teams who are up there with them. The Browns have committed the most penalties in the league. The Buccaneers are in the top 5. The Titans are in the top 5, right? These are the teams that are giving up the most yards. Oh, dying here. Um, and yet there's the Niners who have committed some of the least amount of penalties in the league, right up there with these teams. You can't be giving up big penalties like that. It's gonna kill you every time.
Yeah. It's when you have Carson Wentz just hucking up like 4 of those, and they're all for like 40 yards apiece. I guess that starts to add up those numbers, but yeah. Turnovers, all those things. Just it's the those are just not clutch plays. You start adding all those things together, and a team that's actually in the top 10 as far as total yards against, top 5 as far as passing yards against. You wouldn't think it though with that secondary, and yeah, the DPIs go to show. Does it really add up to necessarily yards there, and points per game against? Just way too many. But at the same time, you got to have the ability to create some turnovers yourselves. And I think, yeah, just having 2 picks on the year for the Niners, that's pretty telling. I think they've dropped some ones, obviously one of those being in like the rain games, but they've had some bad drops. They've had some bad drops on both sides. They have receivers that all of a sudden can't catch a goddamn ball. A offense that just seems to sputter, and all of a sudden they can't pick up first downs. Terrible on third down conversions. So those things have really added up and really cost them. I expected a much more fight out of them, especially after an awkward, weird game, but ultimately kind of closing it out against Chicago. Could have been an opportunity to really start picking up some wins, gain some ground. Because then you looking further down the line, you definitely have some winnable games.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Kittle just coming back after last week started to get some stuff going early in that game, and then they just never really found him again. That was a little surprising. So
I think
we'll
they
see.
got a little bit of cold feet thrown to Kittle after the fumble.
Yep.
Right? That's what it seemed like to me. Garoppolo seemed like he lost a little bit of confidence going to Kittle after the fumble. Um, I could just it could just be a coincidence thing where the target stopped coming after the fumble and it's just a coincidence thing. But usually when you see that happen, the quarterback tends to maybe be lacking some confidence in the receiver, which would be weird because you got the best tight end in the league in George Kittle. You can't be going away from him that easily. But hey, it's one of those things where Yeah, you lost to the Cardinals, but you look at the week as a whole, and it's not even in the top five weird losses of the week, right? If we want to move into one that definitely is, the Jaguars beat the Bills, right?
Yeah.
That should put things in context of losing to the Cardinals last week, right? Something was weird last week. I can't explain it. It was a weird week.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you're going away. So there might there might have been something they were down there in Florida. Maybe they I don't know, had too much a good time, something like that.
You
Uh,
know, they drank the water and it had something weird in it, and
but I mean, you take a look. You got a couple picks by Josh Allen there. They they had no running game. Singletary couldn't get anything going. They barely went
Josh
down.
Allen was their leading rusher, and he
Yeah.
only ran for 50.
Um, Carlos Hyde, rising out of rising off the bench and
Yeah,
getting just a bunch of carries all of a sudden. That's pretty surprising. Trevor Lawrence, obviously not having much of a game at all. And good old Beathard actually having to step in, get a couple there. Yeah,
I feel
just
so bad for Trevor Lawrence, man. Like he looks dead out there in Jacksonville. They got no offensive line. The who's their best receiver out there right now, right? You couldn't pick him out of a lineup. He he looks dead, right? Like he looks like a guy who A, for the first time in his career doesn't have much confidence, and B, doesn't have much support. It's it's a bad situation, man. It's a bad situation for Trevor Lawrence. I still
yeah.
think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine, but oh,
It's gonna be some bad years down in Jacksonville for
yeah.
him, unfortunately. And to kind of touch on Buffalo just a bit more here. I mean, their team they've looked fantastic in their wins. They kill it in their wins. But if any of these games, if they're close in any regard, they just kind of drop the ball. Tennessee, you can completely understand. Pittsburgh, you can even completely understand. Even though the Pittsburgh looked like a crazy anomaly early on in the season because Pittsburgh started to just absolutely stink after that,
Yeah,
and
just Bill
Buffalo started taking
froze
off.
up.
It's like, okay, that was just uh, there was nothing to that. But now, as we're kind of seeing further down the line, maybe that was more realistic of a game than we thought it was, as far as only losing by a touchdown to the Steelers there. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about just those games that are pretty close. This was the only one that's a real letdown though, and for that this team with how much offense they've had, I mean, you can't think that that's really the Jacksonville defense stepping up that much. Uh, just a like real letdown going forward. I mean, I can't imagine uh, the Jets are gonna have too much to say about it, but we'll see.
Mike White back.
We'll hit.
Is Mike White back?
We'll,
That
we'll
could be a question.
we'll touch upon that as we go forward. One other, I would say. I mean, we could touch upon a few of these games, of course, from the uh, the past week here. Let's see. I had one I was looking at. I mean, obviously, just like teams like Cincinnati getting absolutely blown up by the Browns. That's
I was gonna say,
pretty
if you want to
nutty.
do like a quick speed round of the Browns Bengals game, I think it's more realistic of where these two teams are. If I'm being honest, maybe it's just me. Maybe I have too much faith in the Browns. But I look at all the injuries the Browns went through at the start of the season, losing Baker, losing their whole defensive line, losing Hunt, right? Now they're starting to get healthy again, right? Nick Chubb was injured for a few weeks there. Like they had, they were the walking wounded.
Yeah.
They're more healthy now. I coming into the year, I thought the Browns were a legitimate shot to get out of the AFC and make the Super Bowl. I still think a healthy Browns team is. I haven't gone away from that. I know they had a rough start and everybody panicked, but I think if you look at the injury list that the Browns had, it speaks more to what happened at the start of the year than anything else. It wasn't just the amount of players they lost. It was who they lost. Losing Baker, losing Hunt, losing Chubb, losing their whole line. Like Tack McKinley's been out and Clowney's been out and starting to get healthy now, right? And I think this is what we see. The Bengals started out on fire, but they still got a ways to go yet. I'm not gonna say they're a bad team because they're not. They're a decent team now, but they're not there yet, right? And I think that's what we're learning over the last couple of weeks is they're not there yet. They're getting there. There's cause for excitement, I think, for Cincinnati for the first time, maybe in my lifetime. It's been a while since there's been a reason to be excited about the Bengals. Right, even in the days of like John Kitna and stuff like that, they were only an okay team who was never going to win a Super Bowl. There's actual cause for excitement here. You can look to a future with this team and go, with the pieces we have, if we can keep building on it, there's a potential here. But they're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more hopeful than they've had. I think that's something to where you still have a guy like Burrow who's able to obviously show times where he's able to sling it, but it's kind of taking a look here as far as his passing numbers on the season. I mean, you're talking about 20 touchdowns already, but on 11 picks. So just a little too frequent on that. Still, though, I mean, one of your better quarterbacks as far as kind of overall rating, and with Jamar Chase and that sort of thing. There, I think you have to help him out a little bit more on the offensive line. Joe Mixon, I mean, he actually had some good carries, good yards in that game as far as an average was concerned. Help him out a little bit with run the ball and let him go into a little play action. I think Burrow has shown that definitely has the ability to get the ball out there well. Just a few too many mistakes there, and yeah, a Browns team that has been really dinged up, coming off kind of the craziness that surrounds the whole OBJ situation. I know there was drama always around that because just wasn't seeing getting made touches. This is a team though, and I think you brought this up last week. Cleveland's got to operate out of the run. This team lives and dies by the run. And Baker, as much as you want to have a quarterback and they want to be that standout piece, I mean, Nick Chubb is what makes this team move, and as well, and their backup, their rotation is great, and so you could bring in fresh legs and not really feel like you're falling off that much as far as your backfield is concerned. You could still run behind that 2, that 3. Guys like Dearness Johnson being able to pop up and even be valuable. It's fun to see. I like teams that still can run the rock like that. I've known it as a Niners fan. When we go well with the running game is when we do our best. You're able to keep time possession. You're able to get those first downs, matriculate the ball down the field. And every now and then, you'll have these crazy, nice blowout games like you do when you just absolutely, you're able to stomp like they are. 41 points there. Pretty damn impressive. And I would be, it's as much as I want to see the Bengals do well, it's hard not to think of them as maybe the 3 and 4 at this point. They were really looking like they could pull off and be kind of number 1, but once teams like the Steelers and the Browns started to kind of get it figured out a little bit more, and as we talked about, Ravens, they're just, who knows what we're going to get week to week from them. You got to think they're like the 3 and 4 as far as the Bengals are in that division.
Still think I like the Bengals over the Steelers.
Maybe a hair, maybe.
But
Ben has to kind of prove that he keep doing it week in, week out.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, I want to save the Steelers game for the end of this week because I got things to say.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, I mean, obviously, when you're talking about in division and you're talking about half a season left, these teams are all going to play each other at least once more.
Yeah.
They're going to be beating each other up. So it will be
For
very
sure.
interesting to even see what these teams look like as far as who your starters are at the end of the season. Because I think last thing you want to see if you're the Browns right now and it's starting to look like you might be getting it back is for Baker to go down again. But he's going to have that shoulder that's going to be bothering him all season. So hopefully he's able to stick it out. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Um, want to talk about the Patriots for a second? I love this Patriots team. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Yep. Yep.
I got the Patriots as one of my wild cards right now.
Did
If
bring this
the
up last
Bills
week.
keep
Yep.
doing what they're doing, they're gonna need to watch out on their heels. This Patriots team is a team that I love the way it's built. Are they the greatest offensive team in the world? No, but they're consistent. Are they the greatest defensive team in the world? No, but they're consistent. Bill Belichick's got this thing running like a fine oiled machine right now, right? They do everything well, right? They might not do anything great, but they do everything well. And a team like that is always kind of scary, right? Whereas if you compare it to a team like the Chiefs, who have a great passing game, but their defense is poor, their running game is non existent, right? When you got a team who does everything well, they're going to cause problems for everybody, and that's what the Patriots are doing right now. They've find Mac Jones didn't have his best game in the world, didn't have to, right? They ran the ball well. That defense was great. They shut down poor Sam Darnold. He was seeing ghosts again. I love this Patriots team.
Yeah, they seem like a little. I wonder how much they can keep it up as far as they're very opportunistic. It looks like leading the league as far as picks are concerned. That's always going to help. It's always going to help out your quarterback. Momentum, that sort of thing, is going to always kind of be on your side. You're getting short fields. So Mac Jones has done decent enough with that. Mac Jones obviously hasn't been making mistakes. That's going to be very important for them going forward. I think that's kind of recipe to success. Don't turn the ball over yourselves, and you'll just be fine. Um, Obviously, I think in their latest slated games, they're picking up the way they've looked against teams. I don't think they've really looked too bad. The New Orleans loss is their worst one on the season, um, but that's a New Orleans team with Jameis Winston that was able to kind of turn on
Yep.
just a little bit more. They're obviously a different team now than they were then. Keeping games against Tampa Bay close. That might have been the one. I remember that game against Tampa Bay, and they were just hung in there, and it was just kind of came down to the right at the end, a little field goal to take the lead, and they ended up losing that one. Um, I think going forward, they have a slate that a lot of teams that are fighting. You,
Yep.
you get besides, I would say your very end. They obviously have a good 2 game end right there. You would think, as far as teams that won't be really fighting for anything, and maybe are even looking at, what's their draft positioning going to be here going forward, as far as Jacksonville and Miami are concerned. But you talk about they still got Buffalo to see, which is crazy. They're going to have a couple games late against Buffalo in the season. A Tennessee team that has played pretty well, but who knows, a few weeks down the line, you're talking about they could really be tussling for it. They could be really close as far
Yep.
as records are considered. Cleveland, as we just brought up, that's kind of the crazy game of the week. It's the closest spread, I believe, or it's pretty much the closest spread, and
It,
the toughest one for me to call for sure if we're talking about looking ahead to next week's games.
there's two games this week that really stand out to me as ones that I have no idea where they're gonna go, and that is definitely one of them.
Yeah. And,
Um, we talked about this last week with the Patriots, that 4 game stretch where they go Titans, Bills, Colts, Bills,
Yeah.
right? As being a big part. You said last week you thought they were going to go 0-4 through that stretch.
Yeah.
Do you stand by that after watching the last few weeks, seeing how good this defense is, seeing what they can do? Do you still look at that and go, that is a for sure 0-4?
I mean, I you know whatever for sure 0-4 would be.
If you
That was
were,
just my feeling on it. I mean, the thing is, I think you're talking about those are teams that are going to be scrapping for it. Buffalo, they like we were saying right there, their worst games. Their worst game was obviously last week, but otherwise, their two other losses were fairly understandable. They've been pretty damn good. So I think the Buffalo's games are still pretty solid of locks. Tennessee kind of has shown they have the ability to go out there. They had an incredibly impressive game last week. So I think even
yeah,
without D Henry, as much as we know that's a vital piece and that's a piece that makes him go, how much you don't believe in Ryan Tannehill, I still think that's a dub. The one that's probably in question, obviously, is the Colts. What kind of Colts team are we going to be looking at by that time? This is a Colts team that could very well start dropping games, and they could still be sitting at about 6 wins maybe, or 5-4 wins really. By the time it rolls around to that game, so obviously if you're seeing that Colts team, probably not going to really be there, and that's probably more of a Pats win. But I think if that Colts team is slugging it out, I mean that's a hell of a game. That's going to be an awesome. That's going to be a Saturday game too. So that's
yeah,
going to be perfect,
yeah,
like holiday slate. What a game that's
yeah.
lining
It's
up
going
to
to be
be
a
down
good
the line.
one.
That is, circle the calendar for about a month down the line when the Patriots go to Indy to face the Colts, because that's going to be an awesome game. I feel like that's how it's going to shake down. I feel like Indy's going to stay in there, but uh, so realistically, yeah, do I put the stamp on like absolutely 0-4? I think the Indy game's the big question mark, but I think 1-3 could be very realistic for him in that stretch.
I'll put the stamp on it right now. Guaranteed 2-2 in that 4 game, potentially 3-1. Here's the thing. You mentioned the Bills' losses being understandable. There's another thing in common with all those Bills' losses. They were the only close games the Bills have played this year.
Mm-hmm.
If the Bills don't blow out teams, they lose. Boxing Day in Foxborough with that Patriots defense, you think the Bills are going in there and blowing them out? I don't. And I haven't seen anything from this Bills team to make me believe that they know how to close out close games. I think the Patriots take that Foxborough game against the Bills. I think they probably take that game against the Titans. I think they lose the game in Buffalo, and then that Colts game is going to be fascinating.
I don't see the New England defense. They've been opportunistic. That's great, but it's not like they've been absolutely like defense shutting down teams. This is a team that's given up 35 to Dallas, give up 24. The Chargers, which 24 isn't that bad, but it's not like they're like crazy shutting down team week
And
after
gave
week.
up
28
six
to the
to
New
the
Orleans,
Jets, 6 to the Panthers,
the
19
Jets,
to
the
Tom Brady.
Panthers.
Tom Brady,
Yeah, what Brady's
24
that Tampa
against the
Bay's
Chargers.
yeah, that's. I mean, 24 is acceptable, but it's not like that's what I'm saying. It's like the Chargers haven't
You
been
give
looking
up,
that great either throughout
you
the
take
season.
out
So
the Saints game and the Cowboys game
why do you take those out?
because they were bad defensive games. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
Every other
So
game,
New England could
that
play a
defense
bad
has given
defensive
them a
game.
number that they need to win.
I'm not sold on New England's defense being all that. Like
I'm
they
not
have
saying they're the best defense in the league. I'm saying they're good enough to
so
keep a Bills team close. And I don't believe that Bills team knows how to finish a close game.
I think this Bills team has shown their offense can fucking go when it needs to. So
They
they
just
can
scored
eat.
9 against Jacksonville. If you want to give me the counter argument of, oh, well, it's only 13 against the Jets, they just scored 9 against the Jaguars.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, like we said, bad game, but you take a look at the rest of their season, they have been killing it on
20,
offense.
26 against the Dolphins, 16 against the Steelers. Yeah, when they win games, they win them big. When they're close, they don't win them.
Yeah, this is what I brought up like 20 minutes ago, Craig. I said the exact same thing.
I know. I agree with you on that.
I
So
don't
why
think
do you look at a game in Foxborough and think the Bills are blowing out the Patriots?
I don't think that the Pats are going to be able to keep it that close. But even then, it's like that's one. I think everybody will look at that Jacksonville game, and that will be the thing they point to is the Bills not being that good. I think that's more than any other game. That game was an anomaly, as you were saying before. Like, what the hell?
It was
that?
a weird
9-6. Like,
Um,
no one expected that Buffalo team to come out that flat. Who knows why it happened? I don't expect that from them going forward. Not at all.
no.
This Buffalo's teams look pretty goddamn solid as far as the offense is concerned, and I don't think that this New England team will be able to. I don't see, unless you're talking about maybe some early on. I mean, yeah, early on, if they're able to kind of get Josh Allen to get, they're able to get to Josh Allen early and get an early turnover on, first, second drive, that sort of thing, really stall out that offense. That'll be interesting to see. I don't think New England's completely out of it or anything like that, but I just don't think that Buffalo at that point of the season, they're going to be looking to win games. But that's, we're talking about weeks down the line here. We're talking about a month down the line for that first game.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't look at this Bills team as, I don't know. They're an anomaly to me. They last couple weeks, the Dolphins game and the Jaguars game, nah, something's wrong there. Something's not clicking for them right now, and if they don't figure it out soon, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and what do you talk about? They're going to Buffalo first, so we'll see how they play.
Yeah, they'll lose. I
Buffalo.
said New England loses the game in Buffalo.
We'll see.
I think they win the game in Foxborough.
Craig's got us talking about games a month and ahead. All right, let's go.
Let's move on.
So
the Cowboys stink, right? What was that? What the heck was that Cowboys Broncos game?
Yeah, they just kind of forgot how to play offense, and they just kind of let the Broncos do their thing for a bit. What's funny about this game was that, I don't know, you're even looking into halfway through the third, 19-0 after, you're talking about halfway through the third quarter there. You still got to feel like Dallas is able to put in something here at the end of the third quarter, a touchdown. I think you even still feel a little good about Dallas being able to come back at that point, right? But then they can just keep not doing anything, and then before you know it, it's a 27 and then a 30-point game. And it's like, how the hell did they just not do anything? They just kind of forgot.
How do you give up 30 points to Teddy Bridgewater? How? Listen, I like Teddy Bridgewater, but Teddy Bridgewater's not a guy who should be putting up 30 points on you. He's just not that guy. I don't know what happened. All I've heard all season is about how great the Cowboys defense is and how great the Cowboys offense is, and I saw none of it in this game. They were awful.
Well, yeah.
And yeah, I still think the Cowboys are going to be fine. In the long run, I still think the Cowboys are okay. But, man, they were bad.
Yeah, I mean, you got just, again, pretty much last week was the week of letdown games. Just teams that weren't ready to play against, like, what was considered clearly lesser competition. It happened left and right across the board. Dak with, coming off injury, and you had like the nice little bump you get from Cooper Rush, and then when the offense isn't able to still go, because you do have a change of quarterback, so things are going to change slightly no matter what who you're throwing in there. there's still going to be a difference between going from one quarterback to the next. So I think there's something there to that.
Perhaps.
And I think Denver is always going to be an interesting place to go on the road to. Obviously you
It
talk
was in
about.
Dallas.
Oh yes, this one was in Dallas. That's right. So I mean, yeah, you would expect better at home. Yeah, for some reason I thought this was at Mile High, but no,
It would have made more sense if it was in Mile High.
just a bit. I mean, yeah, you
A
you you
little
you,
bit.
could- you contribute a little bit of crowd noise, that sort of thing, and
And being a mile high, right? Like playing in Denver's hard, right? That
yeah,
the if you're not playing in Denver relatively frequently, that thin air gets to you, right? You get tired easily. It happens.
and
That would make it a little bit more understandable. This was in Dallas, though.
yeah, absolutely. I guess it kind of works both sides though. When the offense is completely flat and it's just not coming out and doing anything, if you're on the road, so if they were in Denver, you would think that crowd's getting pretty pumped, and they're getting loud when the defense is out there getting stops. But then on the flip side, if you're at home and your offense is not doing anything as the home team, it sucks the energy out of the stadium, and so you don't get it on the flip side. Your offense is looking so bad that the crowd isn't really helping you on the defensive side. And how much does that affect a quarterback day or quarterbacks as a whole in the NFL? A bit. We've seen it definitely cause offenses to you know delay games and false starts, that sort of thing. You will see that. I think I think for the offense though, like you're not getting going, the defense is getting out there and they're getting kind of washed by a team that everybody was going to that stadium thinking they were going to be beating. Yeah, it sucks all the energy out. They're not bringing on defense, and it's just you kind of just bleed out slowly, and that's basically what happened to Dallas over 3.5 quarters there, and then they get 16 garbage points to make it look a lot more respectable. That game
Yeah.
should have been like a 30-3 by the end
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
To really kind of stick it home. The thing that Dallas is going to love about this though is they were feeling all good. Everybody was feeling like they're probably the number one besides the Rams, who started collecting all their pieces to make a run at it. You would give them probably number one in the AFC or NFC, right? But this is going to be the thing that hopefully could kind of get Dallas restarted, right? You lost to the goddamn Broncos. You got to be kidding me.
Broncos.
Yeah, at home, that'll be some fuel. The coaching staff will probably light the fire under those guys, and I expect obviously the Cowboys are going to be the class of that NFC East, no doubt. It's not like that's going to change. Even with the Giants looking surprising in that last week, taking it to the damn Raiders, but but you can't expect that to be anything but Dallas's division.
And let's be honest. Let's you mentioned it. Let's switch over to it. There was a lot going on with the Raiders in that game that I think played into that, right? We'd all love to think that the Henry Ruggs stuff and the John Gruden stuff and all the stuff that's happening off the field doesn't affect the team on the field, but it does, right? They lost their coach a couple weeks ago. They lost their number one wide receiver, maybe Hunter Renfrow, number two, right? Like
Well, they're a deep
that's
threat, right?
they're vertical threat, and they did sign Deshaun Jackson this week, which should help, right? It gives
Yep.
them another vertical option, but how all of that happened too, right? It's not like these are injuries that can galvanize the team, right? It was a fatality DUI and a racism scandal from your coach, right? That's gonna hit your team. I think what happened last week to the Raiders was it all kind of caught up to them.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, the Ruggs thing. I actually expected maybe that was a little bit of a galvanizing moment. I was expecting actually Edwards to have a pretty decent game out there. Obviously, didn't come to anything like that. New York has been interesting. Like they have had a couple games in there where they've looked like a very interesting team, and one that sticks around at least a bit. But again, I wouldn't put them anything more than a team that they'll pick up a few more wins this season. I feel the Giants will, but uh, I the Raiders with Pisaccia. Um, I actually thought that was a good move. I think when we kind of brought up when Gruden was first out that I actually really liked him in there as a coach. I think that team will be able to kind of run behind him. But man, that's a hard one for them to take the loss on, even on the road there. I gotta figure that, and then yeah, you have your cornerback that also just got released. One of
Oh
your best
yeah,
corners,
Damon Arnett is an
Arnett.
idiot too.
Arnett, yeah, I mean that one hurts too for them because they actually have a pretty decent secondary back there, and he was definitely a
Yep.
part of it.
Yep.
So uh, it's going to be tough. I think this was the toughest time for them to take a bad loss here, and I think we'll be hopping shortly into this week's game. This is probably one of the worst times they could run into a Chiefs team, honestly. Maybe the worst time. But we'll talk about that game going forward here.
Um. Okay, let's just quickly hop past the Dolphins Texans game. I watched a little bit of it. It wasn't even worth watching, let alone talking about. Any comments on it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, we see the more recent Dolphins game that was a little bit more interesting
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
but kind of interesting. I mean, the quarterback situation for them going forward, them kind of leaning on Brissett more, all the things that came out with Tua, and how they weren't really looking to be sticking with them, and then comes out last night and plays a fairly decent game out there. Tua could be fun. Tua could be fun out there. I think has the ability to at least. It's not even like a game manager sort of thing or anything like that. I think he has the ability to have that offense go just enough to hopefully the defense is able to keep it going. I think that's one thing, and I guess that's what you got to get those game manager labels for. Part of that is the time of possession. I brought this up before with teams. I think that's one thing. Just keep that defense fresh enough to keep doing what they're doing throughout a game, and you'll give them a chance. I mean, we've brought up guys like your Xavier Howards and stuff like that, and they've shown in the previous season that defense can be really nice. So maybe that's just it. If you're able to just kind of keep it going, you're able to. I mean, they got to do better on the run game. That was a miserable offensive. As far as against the Houston Texans, if we're talking about that game still, that rushing game needs to do a little bit better. I think they popped up and did a little bit better last night.
They did.
But yeah, you get Tua out there. Offense just needs to kind of keep them going just enough, and I think that defense could help them lock down some teams and actually stay in and potentially win some more games here. Not much more, but definitely an interesting Dolphins team.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's probably more time than we ever want to spend on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Texans didn't even really talk about the Texans at all. So
That's exactly how much coverage they deserve right now.
whoosh.
Chargers and Eagles. Chargers won. Not surprising. It was very close.
Yeah.
Very surprising.
I
In a week of weird results, the Chargers managed to hold on to a victory there, and I think they deserve a little bit of respect for that. Right? It can be easy when everything's kind of feeling weird, right? The Eagles are keeping you close. You can get a little bit nervy. You got a young quarterback back there. They held on. Justin Herbert played a great game. And they deserve credit for doing something last week that a lot of teams couldn't do and hanging on and winning a football game. Was it pretty? No. Did they win? Yes.
Yeah, it's as a Miles Sanders fantasy owner, nothing has annoyed me more than the fact that they lose their starting running back that has shown he could do pretty well.
Now we're a running team,
And now we're
baby.
running the rock all game. Like, this is absurd. I've never seen such like kind of a backwards way to go about it. But all of a sudden, this team starts running the rock, and they keep themselves in games when they do
Yep.
that. They did great against this Chargers team that has not shown uh, the kind of uh, you would have never expected this game to be as close as it was, and it was quite a fun game. This is one that I watched there last week. It was pretty, pretty astonishing to see how the Chargers really haven't been been stepping up to that. They still were able to, like you said, get it done by the end of it, but uh, you would have never expected that the Eagles would keep this anything close like they did. But yeah, I think part of it, you just don't make Jalen Hurts throw the rock 30, 40 times a game. Run that thing, and good things will start happening. It's a they are a funny team, definitely to watch the Eagles. I can't imagine they might have some more heartbreakers like this. I don't think they really take any significant W's or anything like that, but definitely a scare for the Chargers. Kind of quite a bit of a wake up call to have this game be this close, and they were just that close to losing it as well. So this could have been completely different. This would have been quite an upset if they actually did take the loss here. But
Yep. I don't really have much more to say about it. Props to the Chargers for winning. Props to the Eagles for keeping it close. They're finally figuring out how to run the ball. It was actually a pretty fun game. Uh, Chiefs, Packers. Two thoughts came to my mind watching this game. One, boy, that Jordan Love draft pick looks so much worse now. I he's not it. He's just not. And I don't know if maybe he still needs more time, what it is, but he's no, he didn't show me anything out there. And two, Chiefs stink. I don't know what to do with this Chiefs team anymore. They're just bad. I've just come to the conclusion that 5-4 is just what they are. That's the team they are. They're a 500 team. We need to accept it.
they're like, this has been their MO the last few seasons. They have found ways to win games, but they just seem to do it in such better fashion in previous seasons. These are ugly. I mean, it's the ugliest 6-point win you'll ever have
Yeah.
against. I mean, if you're the Packers, it's hard to be
Rogers
like.
wins that game, right?
I mean, yeah, you'd say that,
Yeah.
of course. Just I don't know what their approach was for this one, as far as like, because I think you do a lot of things right in this. I mean, Mahomes doesn't have a good game at all. They're
No.
still getting to him. Obviously, you talk about 13 points, like, not too shabby when you're holding them to that, and 13 points within the first half. I mean, the
We got shut out in the second half.
it was a weird, like, when you do that and you're able to, yeah, okay, yeah, you slip, but you're still within two scores there after a half.
Yeah.
And if your defense is still going like that, it's just, you figure you get something going. But obviously, Love, like you said, not there yet. Any, I gotta think most backup quarterbacks are able to get you a touchdown, like, early in that third quarter. I think that's all you need. Like, I think
Yeah.
if they get that score a lot earlier, they probably
I
feel like they got that game pretty much. Like there's so many things I would say actually that I put a lot of backups in there as I think about them, and I'm like, they probably get me that win. Like even a Brian Hoyer probably gets you that dub, right?
yeah, you know,
Where we talk about New England, and Brian Hoyer probably gets you 14 points, right? Against this
where's Matt
Chiefs,
Castle when you need him, right?
against this
Like,
Chiefs Garbo defense. I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
think most backups get you 14 points, 2 tutties. And you got Crosby. You got one of the best field goal kickers. How the hell are you not getting any points? Any points? It's
Now Mason
absurd.
Crosby 0 for 2 in that game.
Yes,
Uh,
he's had a couple funk games, hasn't he, this season?
he's been weird this year
He
because
had like a 1-4 early in the season or something.
the obviously the game that went into overtime where they
Yeah.
missed like 6 kicks in a row between the two kickers, right? It was the
Hits a
Bengals and
Then it's like next
yeah,
week he hits a 50-yarder to beat the
yeah.
Niners. What the
Um,
hell is that?
Couple things I will say. You have Jordan Love in and he's throwing ducks. Why are you throwing the ball 34 times when Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are running the way they are?
Yeah,
Right? Like Aaron Jones ran for
we
4.4 a carry, AJ Dillon ran for 5.8 a carry. They only ran the ball 20 times between the two of them. Why?
yeah,
You know, I get it. Oh, we're down, so we got to throw the ball more. No, you don't. Jordan Love's not throwing it. But you're running the ball for 5 yards a carry. If it's AJ Dillon, it's 6 yards a carry.
yeah.
Pummel him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that going into the game. Like, if this team is going to win this game, why not help out your not rookie, but essentially your newbie quarterback that hasn't seen much actual game time outside of
Yeah.
preseason, and yeah, run that rock because it's worked before, and it's not like that's going outside of what you've done all season. This Packers team has operated through the run the entire season. Rodgers hasn't had that stellar of a passing season as far as like some of these individual games. He's throwing for like 200 or less yards. So why go
Yeah,
away from that? It's these weird things. This is what the Eagles did. All of a sudden, hey, our starting running backs is gone. Let's run the ball 30 times. Hey, our backup quarterback's in. Let's throw the ball almost 40 times. Like
yeah.
there's no reason to panic at any point in that game until it gets starting toward the very end there. That's absurd. You're talking about a game that they slowly trickled away and gave up 13 points in the first half. But in the third quarter, you still run the rock. I don't understand why you go away from that at any point during the game, but they just never really got the offense under them. I don't know how opportunistic. I didn't watch that game itself, so I don't know how opportunistic that defense was. And maybe there was some early run plays where there was some stops or something that happened, like you got to think there was maybe a marquee moment where they didn't feel like a crucial third down they didn't get because of a run stop or something like that. Sometimes that'll change a coach's perception. You get put into a third one, you have the momentum starting to go for you, you run the rock and they completely stuff it. That might turn a coach off completely from running the rock the rest of the game. Starting to get into that Madden mentality of, okay, now you just throw it every friggin' down. So maybe it was that, but that was a weird one for sure.
I'll throw it out there. That is not what happened.
Yeah.
They ran the ball just as well in the second half as they did in the first. They just did it less.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
uh,
smart.
like I said, AJ Dillon got 8 touches and was averaging 6 per carry. Aaron Jones got 12 touches and was averaging 4.5 a carry. You could easily put 10 more runs on each of those guys if they keep doing that production, and you win that game. Right? Like, make them stop you. Why do you change it when it's working? I don't get it. Right? Like, we talked about that Eagles game and the way the Eagles kept it close. Jordan Howard ran the ball 17 times. Boston Scott ran it 10 times. Jalen Hurts ran it 10 times. Yeah. Right? All three of those guys ran more than AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
It baffled me. Right?
Strange one.
Jordan Love should have thrown 24 passes in that game, not 34. Take 10 of those plays, split them between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. You're probably got more plays under your belt because they're going to be picking up first downs. Instead, they come out in the second half and they're like, we're down 13-0, gunslinging time. And Jordan Love just ain't got it.
Yeah.
It was baffling. But yeah, Chiefs stink. I don't know. Again, judging by what you said earlier, I think we have differing opinions on this week's Chiefs game, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Titans beat the Rams 28-16. I'll let you start with this one. Go ahead.
You know, you're looking at a Matt Stafford doing Matt Stafford things. Everybody very high up on Matt Stafford, always looking real great. It's a whole new world.
Matt Stafford bandwagon.
It's,
that was a bad one.
No,
that was a bad one.
These things could obviously happen. I think you're talking about a Titans team that didn't have a great offensive performance for sure, but was able to take advantage of some turnovers. Obviously, was able to do just enough as far as stopping the offensive. Basically opportunistic as far as when they got some of those turnovers, and just getting the kind of stops when they needed them. You have otherwise some decent yards being put up by Matt Stafford, almost 300 yards passing. You got some decent ground production going for the Rams there. And basically, I think if you were just take a look on paper and yeah, they bring in AP, but you lose Derrick Henry, and you got to be thinking, Titans. Yeah, I don't know if they could do it with this Rams team that's loading up, but it's still, as much as they, people might feel about a Von Miller, coming in, and now you got an OBJ coming in for the Rams. They still gotta work under this scheme and how this team operates. So it might, Von Miller is not the same guy as he used to be, and so it might take a little bit for him to really be effective in what the Rams are doing on defense. And we'll see with I don't think receiver was anything that the Rams were lacking, so we'll see how much of a contribution you even have with an Odell Beckham there. But ultimately, two damn good teams playing each other right here. I think just kind of one of those slightly off weeks there for a Rams team, and Titans doing just enough. I think a very nice defensive performance helped lead the way for them for sure. And yeah, just a couple too many mistakes there by Stafford, and all of a sudden, you lose it by a couple scores. So
yeah, I'm. Let's just put it this way: I'm not changing my opinion on Ryan Tannehill after this game. He was fine, right? Yeah. Ultimately, this game swung on two passes, right?
Yeah.
Stafford threw the back-to-back picks for touchdowns, and that was where the game swung.
Yeah.
Props to the Titans' defense. Bend, don't break, right? They let them pick up yards, but they ultimately didn't give them too much as far as big plays, big scoring drives. They knew what they had to do. And it was a good win by the Titans. I will not back down from what I said. I think if you play this game 10 times, the Rams will win it 8 or 9 of them with the teams lining up the way they do. I think this was just one of those cases where Stafford made a couple bad mistakes and it bit him. When you got two good teams out there, that's what's going to happen. I'm not any less bullish on the Rams. I still think they're the best team in the NFC. I'm not any more bullish on the Titans. I still think without Derrick Henry, I don't think they're much of a threat in the AFC. But we'll see, right? Maybe if this defense steps up like that week after week, that would certainly be something that would make me change my mind about it. Anything else about that game that you can think of note? I think we've pretty much hit the basis of it.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Can I rant for a second about the Bears Steelers game? What the fuck was that?
Yeah,
Did the NFL just decide we need the Steelers to win and phone something down? I'm not the person to call conspiracy theory often, okay? I usually am the first person to say refs suck all the time. Let it go. That was embarrassing. That was inexcusable. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what caused what happened there, but it needs to be fixed because that was ridiculous. The Bears got robbed of a win when they're in the middle of a playoff. The refs just decided you don't get to win today, Chicago. Steelers get handed a win. 5-3. Don't make me laugh. That team stinks. What happened there?
yeah. I mean, it's yeah, that was a pretty silly way for that game to be decided. Because otherwise, like, pretty goddamn entertaining game. Bad calls all over the place, though. I mean, if there's one thing, like, oh man, yeah, you start removing like whether it was the God, the what is it? Illegal block. There was a legal block play. There's
Yeah,
Fields.
the blindside block that took out a touchdown when it
Yeah,
wasn't even close, or
what
low
the,
block.
yeah, low block exactly. And yeah, the
And then the
pulling guard.
oh,
Field.
and then the taunting penalty.
Well, yeah. So you get that. You get Fields getting absolutely destroyed there on a slide. That doesn't get called. And
No. Justin Fields, man, he's a running back. He's not a quarterback. It's different.
he was getting down, so I don't know. Whatever. I've seen that call go so many other times the other way, but
Literally every other time a
yeah,
quarterback gets hit like that, it gets
pretty much
called.
exactly.
It happens in this game, but we want the Steelers to win, so no.
And but yeah, I mean the it's it's so funny because it was a like the way it worked out. Like I can understand. There was Marsh has to have some emotion about the situation. Um, given the team that's cut you, um, you got fired up, but he didn't say anything. Didn't like he wasn't
Do
like
anything.
gesturing. He wasn't gesturing. He just standing there, just
He
standing
was
there,
the
a ways
Patrick
off.
meme.
He didn't
He's
like get in
just
their face.
standing
He
there,
just standing there.
menacing me.
And then as he goes off, like ref already in the hip. So it wasn't for that. Like he claims that it was because of that, but he could have just thrown it then.
Yeah,
But it wasn't for the stare down
he
shit.
was,
And
he
then
was
yeah,
in the hip check.
the backup, the like the little half back step that everybody fucking saw, and throws the flag. Like it's, I'm surprised that like the NFLPA doesn't raise up a stink about that one. I don't know what their whole collective bargaining, and obviously players get fined if they, or coaches too, get fined if they bring up anything about the bad refereeing, no matter how egregious and clear it was. And most of the time they just eat the fine, whatever. But it's amazing that that like okay, first of all, dude, fucking sweet kick. Nice little crossover fucking kick. That was
Yeah,
a beauty. Um, Kind of one of my favorite like sack
yeah. No, the
celebrations for
spinning
sure I've ever
round kick
seen.
was solid, and he nailed
Clean
it. By the
form.
way,
Yeah, clean form.
nailed it.
Almost the best kick I saw the past weekend. There was that one in the UFC by that big dude. Holy
Gonna
shit.
bring it up later. Gonna bring up some UFC stuff later.
What
Look,
that was the best. But that was by far that was the second best kick right there by Cassius Marsh. Um, and yeah, it's just like, dude, that decides it. Like if that was you just kind of think about it. Bears, do people expect the Bears to do anything crazy, as far as like making the playoffs or anything this season.
No, but you look
No,
at the
probably not.
NFC right now.
But
One game could be huge there.
absolutely, and it still can be. I mean, I think maybe some people might kind of not think it that bad because it's like, okay, whatever, what's that team going to do? But yeah, no, I mean, this is a team that still has gone out there. They've won some games that it isn't out of this world in the NFC wildcard picture that the Bears be sticking around there, and
Yeah.
that loss to be determined on that is, yeah, it's pretty poor form. You gotta. I mean, I don't know exactly, and the thing is does that take all the wind out of your sails if you're the Bears? Um, you know,
Or does it galvanize you?
that's
Right.
that's tough. Like I can understand that it could, but man, you get a letdown like that when you're that close,
I,
and I don't know. It could really take the wind out of your sails if you just like, Jesus, we can't get anything going our way. Like,
I get
hopefully
what
it's
you're
not.
saying.
Hopefully it's not for him, of
Yeah.
course. But I just think
I
there's the opportunity for that to happen, of course.
absolutely, and I get what you're saying, and I definitely think the day after that game, you feel like shit, right? We just got that one stolen from us, man, by three dudes who have never played the game in their damn lives, who got power, and they feel like they want to do something with it, right? I get that, but I think as the days go on in practice, and as you get closer to this week coming up, and I think the Bears are on a bye too. So they even get
Yeah,
another week to stew and fester and be really pissed off.
yeah.
You can easily turn that into an us versus the world mentality that can give you a nice chip on your shoulder, a nice little edge that you need coming into playoff time to really push you to that next level. It'll be interesting to see because you're right. It could go either way. It could just deflate the balloon entirely, right? Like you could just take all the air out of it and the whole world's against us. What's the point? Or could see a little bit of galvanization from the Bears. Little bit pissed off after what happened there. Feeling a
It's
little bit spited by the league, by the referees, by, you get that us versus the world mentality and it can push you on a little bit. We'll see.
it's tough. It's tough because you're talking about 4-5 versus 3-6, and I feel
And
like
that is the
I
difference,
think there's
right?
that might
They'd
be
be the
a
third playoff team.
that might be a game, but that feels like a mile as far
Yeah.
as one record to the next. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they're able to bounce back on that. But so I believe you had I believe you were keeping it. What was our records of this past week as far as
Not good.
No, I didn't think so.
Not good
Yeah,
would
we,
be
we
the
had we had
answer.
some bad ones, and I think a lot of people
Um,
had some bad ones this past week.
uh, the good news is Bears cover that game.
Yeah,
So we got that one right. As it was, uh, you went 6-8, and I went 5-9. Um, the key difference there
yeah.
being the Falcons winning and me not actually picking them.
Wow.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
we had a bad week. To be fair, I'd be shocked if anybody had a good week gambling with
Yeah.
the Jaguars winning and the freaking Vikings covering the Ravens and the Dolphins actually beating the spread against the Texans, and there's a lot of weird ones this week. The Niners game I'm sure threw off a lot of cards. It was an awkward one for gambling this week for sure with the lines. Nothing helped.
No.
But you know what? Another week, another dollar, and we're on to this week's slate now. So if you wanna get us started, let's go through it.
Yeah, let's jump in right in the first game. Talk about that Atlanta team. Atlanta heading into Dallas, getting 9 points as Dallas gets -9 in that game. Uh, Atlanta obviously coming off of a nice little 2-point win against New Orleans. Dallas coming off of a rough loss there to a Denver team that they were expected to beat, but one that has been going through their injuries. I actually have, we're going to go back to the well, and we're going to go back to the Falcons, keeping it within 9 at least on this one.
I am actually with you on this one. The Falcons, for all their flaws, don't get blown out very often. They they play teams close, and even when they blow games they should win, that usually means they're close. 9 points feels like a bit much for this game. Um, I'm kind of with you on this. I think the Falcons got enough in the tank to keep this within a touchdown. So
I think
I'm
so.
I'm I'm a double up on the Falcons with you here. I also think Atlanta keeps it within 9.
Yeah, I think you're looking at a Dallas team that might still have, it's kind of strange to say, but I think a little bit of, growing pains, just a readjustment period maybe for them to where they're not as clean as they had been. A Falcons team that they are currently in the playoff picture. They are your seventh team, your third wild card team. Uh, yeah, Atlanta's got to look at this as an opportunity, especially with the New Orleans team they just beat and have potential, down the line, tiebreakers or whatever with them. I think this is going to be a good one for Atlanta. It's going to be tough for them on the road here. A Dallas team that, yeah, having that letdown, um, having that second home game in a row, I would expect them to play pretty well, but I think Falcons will definitely keep that within 9.
Yeah, I still think the Cowboys win this outright. If you're asking me outright, I think the Cowboys find a way to win this game probably.
Yeah.
But I don't think by anything more than a touchdown. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. And if that Dallas offense doesn't get back in sync, this could be a very interesting game the other way, right? The Falcons are a much better offense than the Broncos, right? So if that Falcons offense comes out the way it did and leans heavily on that defense and the Falcons are constantly getting drives, they could put up a lopsided number in that first half and make this game tough for the Cowboys to come back in.
Yeah.
That Cowboys offense needs to be in better sync this week because if they're not, the Falcons offense is much better than the Broncos offense. They'll make you pay for it.
Teaser here. Let's go with a little. It's like a parody or a little like gimmick pick here because you brought this up earlier. It's a good point. This is a kind of flip the switch either or. I almost think could have even a little bit of a half and half game. Cordell Patterson, more rushing yards, more receiving yards in this game.
Against this Cowboys defense, I think he ends up with more receiving yards.
Receiving yards. All right. There's
I
your parody pick. Take Cordell over receiving yards against rushing yards. I don't even think that's a bet you could actually make, but it just kind of
No,
popped in
I
my
don't think.
mind.
But if it was, I would take the receiving yards on this one. I think against this Cowboys defense, they do pretty all right against the run. Uh, but a couple of teams they struggle with have had swing running backs, right? Guys who they can swing the ball out to and pick some yards up off the catch. Cordell Patterson, I think, is in line for a game like that, where he gets more receiving yards than he does rushing yards. I think that Cowboys defense is better against the run than the pass. And
All right.
Matt Ryan, for everything I say about him, somehow continues to come out and throw the ball well, right? The arm looks dead some weeks, but other weeks he comes out and he slings it. And I think Cordell Patterson will be a big part of what they do this week as far as the passing game goes.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun game to watch. Another one. There's actually quite a few games in this morning slate that are pretty tasty. I think we'll move on to the second game, and we just talked about that team that was upset by that Falcons team. We got the New Orleans Saints going into Tennessee to play the Titans. A tricky one as Tennessee only getting the -3 at home here against.
It at home?
Yeah, pretty surprising. A low spread. Obviously, you got the Derrick Henry factor in there, but now you have the Alvin Kamara effect in there as well. I don't know if this -3 really reflects the Kamara not being in there. Definitely take me with see me with the Titans there, being able to definitely cover that spread of the -3.
I'm 100% with you on that one. Trevor Simeon, really? Like,
Yeah,
take everything I said about Ryan Tannehill, -100, that's Trevor Simeon. Ryan Tannehill, for all of my misgivings about him is a significantly better quarterback than Trevor Siemian. Both teams without their starting running backs. Give me the Titans all day.
Yeah, that's just going to be a rough one. But this is what I was kind of saying. You're asking me last week. The Saints team, you really think they're going to slip that much? And I don't. This is where it could start. You take that loss against the Falcons, take another L here. I'm looking at a 5-4 team. All of a sudden, all these teams that are 500 and even a little bit lower, they start to creep up into the rearview mirror there. If you're the Saints, and who knows? The Falcons, as they keep on that upswing, all of a sudden they could see themselves out of second place in that division real quick, within a matter of weeks potentially. This Saints team is going to obviously they're seeing this is going to be a tough game with Tennessee here. Who knows what they're going to see with that Philly game after that? But then, you talk about Buffalo and Dallas after that. They still got to see Tampa Bay. Got to see Atlanta one more time to end the season. That Saints Falcons to end the season. I think I can't remember we brought this up last week, but that
could be a big playoff implications game.
Huge game in Georgia right there.
Yeah, that could be a big playoff implications game.
Definitely. So that should be some fun. I like I like Tennessee to do fairly well here. I think AP ready to get maybe even a little bit more of the workload here and kind of get this offense more in tune with how they're used to operating, which is a little bit more run heavy. Allow Tannehill to just kind of make the passes when it just needs to. And like I brought up before, you have some great weapons there as far as your receivers as Tennessee is concerned. So when you need to, I think they'll have the ability to take advantage of, if they're able to tighten up that box a little bit and get New Orleans to over dedicate to the run. Tennessee will be able to do enough on the passing side to keep this a pretty distant game. I think -3 is very interesting line there. I expect that as the week goes on or as we get to tomorrow, that's going to widen out because of the Kamara injury.
Curious if it's changed at all.
Yeah, perhaps.
Since the Kamara injury, no, I'm still getting -3.
Yep.
Actually, on DraftKings, you get -2.5.
Press.
It's fascinating to me. Okay.
Up next, maybe I would have said this game would have been, I don't know, last week. This wouldn't looking like an interesting game at all. It's going to be kind of fun, though. You got a Jacksonville team that just came off a very surprising win against the Bills, going into Indy to play a Colts team that has looked like they're good going on the upswing, but right now this is a 4-5 Colts team. They are actually getting 10.5. That line moved slightly. It was 10 when I first marked this. They are getting 10.5 at home. Man, you know what?
They should, right? They should beat the Jaguars by 10.5. You would think.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. This is a worrying number. This is a number that's supposed to scare you. I gotta figure though that this is an indie team that's Jacksonville. Yeah, they picked up a win. I think that game is the strangest game you'll see maybe all season for the Jags getting that win against Buffalo. So I gotta think that I think Indy actually covers that 10.5 there. So I'll take Indy there.
Fun fact. Did you know that the Jaguars have covered 10.5 more times this year than they've lost by 10.5?
Makes sense. I mean, it's a big spread. I mean, 10.5 is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, not a lot of games being decided by 2 touchdowns plus, right? So that's what you're starting to kind of lean in toward when you get into those double digit spreads like that. I gotta feel that this Colts team, when if they've had anything really, this is a Colts team that puts up points.
Yeah.
For the most part. They've had a stinker against Seattle and Tennessee early, but you're floating 20, 30, even up to 40 points in the game there. I gotta imagine they have the ability to hold the Jags to. Yeah, it starts to get very interesting. That line is right where I'd say, because I'm thinking this is like a 21-10 game, honestly. So that's 11 points. So that barely gets Indy there. I
Yeah,
think this is
I
like a 21-10, honestly. This is a
that
very good line.
Jaguars defense is going to be feeling a little bit bullish after having a really solid performance against the Bills. Josh Allen loses his powers of playing Josh Allen though, as he is not playing Josh Allen this week. Um, a lot of me wants to take the Jaguars here. I feel like 10.5 is a bit steep, but I still Indy's going to win this game. I think they're going to win it convincingly. I'll take the Colts. I think they end up winning this convincingly, but oh, I'm gonna live to regret this if this game ends 20-10.
Every opportunity. Yeah, no, this is one of those ones where, I mean, God, yeah, you wonder how like the bookies are able to really make these lines. This line's beautiful because it's so hard.
It's right on that edge,
It's
right?
so hard to
Nine
go with
points would
that.
be so easy to go
Yeah.
Colts, right? 13 points, I'd be going Jaguars. 10.5 is right at that point where I hate it.
I mean, this is one of those games. I mean, Indy could literally be up 17 at the end of the game. Indy puts in all their backups, and Jacksonville gets a Garbo touchdown at the very end of the game to make it a 10.
Yep.
Like, so 10.5 is bull.
Backdoor covers very alive in
This
those games
was
for sure.
minus 10, so I felt a little bit better. Literally, that half point means so much right there. That's a tough one, but I will still take Indy on that one. Um, this might be this is the toughest game for me to call. So tough that I don't have one written down. I have every other game marked right now. I have made my picks on them. This one I haven't been able to decide yet, and
Okay.
I'm still thinking about it right now. So I'm actually Craig. I'm gonna let you give me your pick first on this one. We got the Cleveland Browns going into New England to face the Patriots. Patriots getting 2.5 points or minus 2.5 points at home. Both teams 5-4 on the season.
Oh, you would make me go first on this one because this is two teams I'm very bullish about right now. What's See, I was gonna say what's the weather gonna be like in Foxborough, but Cleveland always plays in shit weather, so that's not gonna change much. Um, at home, Patriots defense that can create turnovers versus a quarterback who likes to turn the ball over. I'm gonna go with the Patriots. It's a tough one. There's a very easy path to victory for Cleveland for me. I still quite like Cleveland a lot. I just think Baker is willing to take chances to win ball games. And as much as I respect that about him, this is a Patriots defense that likes to create turnovers. I can see them forcing a couple of Baker, getting Mac Jones into good positions where he can do what he does right now well, which is manage the game, control possession, keep the Patriots ahead. I I think they squeak this one out. I'll take the Patriots, but I'm not sold on it. I wouldn't be betting on it. Let's put it that way. There's no money on this one, but I'll take the Patriots.
All right, we've locked it in. Give me the Browns. I will take the
Okay.
Browns. I'm going to take the Browns simply for the fact that I think you got Cleveland defense that's buzzing. They're doing very well. You got a run game. Now this is one thing. So very interesting on this, and we have to make the pick right now. So I'm leaning Cleveland, but I guess Nick Chubb has been like kind of potentially He's questionable. I'm not too sure exactly what his status is as far as this game going in. I know he hasn't been practicing.
Nick Chubb ruled out for Sunday's game versus New England.
Already been ruled out. Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
that already makes me want to change it. um, oof, that's tough. That's tough for Chubb to be out because I think this is
And
definitely.
actually, they're also missing Demetric Felton. So their running back room is essentially Dearness Johnson and nothing else.
And I like Johnson, but I don't know. Just him behind there. That's tough.
That makes me feel better about my New England pick. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
feel a lot better about my New England pick.
No, you know what? At home, I gotta go with New England then. I gotta go with New England then.
Yeah, no Nick Chubb makes that.
That's tough. That's gonna be very tough for the Browns to be able to
Yeah.
take that. I really like a lot of their pieces. I love their defense, but I don't know if they're gonna have enough offense to really keep that going. I think the thing that always worries me about teams that have this defensive leaning like they do they have enough offense to be able to keep that defense operating at 100%? That's the toughest thing. I've seen that many times again, to where if your offense isn't able to at least keep time of possession out there, these defenses are just going to fade over time. So I can see that happening. So I'll agree with you on that one. It looks like we'll keep it. Yeah, we'll keep it with the same pick there. So yeah, we'll take the Pats.
Okay, what's next? What else we got?
Well, let's see, we got. This is one of those fun spreads. Giant spread here, as we got the Buffalo Bills going into New York to play the Jets. Buffalo at Buffalo minus 12.5 points.
You ready for the easiest pick of my life? Give me the Jets
Yep.
plus 12 and a half. Mike White, the man, the myth, the legend, is back. He is playing. Uh he's yet to show me anything to make me believe he cannot keep this Jets team within two touchdowns, right? Like, this is essentially what we're asking here. 12 and a half, right? We're essentially asking the Jets to stay within two touchdowns of a Bills team that just lost to the Jaguars. I know it's an anomaly. I know it's a one-off game, but I still, I don't know. Maybe I want to believe in Mike White more than I actually believe in Mike White. I just think two touchdowns here, I'll take the Jets.
Yeah. Let's see here. I actually had this pulled up before, so and I like it. I appreciate it. People getting very excited about Mike White. Um, Let me see here. Why don't I have this? I had this on hand earlier. Basically, I think Mike White's only thrown one more touchdown and he's thrown picks this season. Uh,
You're not wrong. I'm pretty sure that is exactly the number. He's thrown 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
yeah.
But
I like it. I like that it added a spark to the team. I think it's definitely fun to like some of
I mean,
the
Brett Favre threw a lot of picks. He was still a good quarterback. Come on.
quotes. Yeah, but Brett Favre, like, man, it's an interesting road for the kid. I appreciate that he's like coming out there. I love the sound bites and like little like tweets and stuff
I
from
should have
the
got
past.
first overall.
Loving
Mike White
to
number one,
loves
baby.
to I hate losing to privileged white kids or something like that. It's just so good. Like, so you
He's the
can't help
best.
but want to root for the guy. Of course, I like him. I actually hope he kind of. I mean, this is the thing is, I can't imagine Buffalo like completely screws this up twice in a row. Like, you gotta imagine after losing that game to Jacksonville, um, they're gonna they're gonna they're gonna play a lot better. But I don't think they have the ability to maybe get this by 12 and a half. I think the Jets are going to be able to have just enough to keep it within that. I still think this is a little bit higher scoring game than the Jets are going to want, though. They don't want really a shootout. And I think, like I was saying before, I think Buffalo has the ability to turn that offense on, despite only putting up 6 last week. So I'm expecting, Buffalo to be somewhere in that like mid high 30-point range even, and the Jets to maybe be in like the low 30s, high 20s. So I'm still thinking keeps it within that 12 and a half range just there, but still probably around double digits, like a 10-point loss for the Jets. So give me the
So
get
just
give me the Jets to cover the spread there, stay within it, but yeah, Buffalo to actually take the outright win.
yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I don't know if I actually believe in Mike White or just want to believe in Mike White,
Everybody
but there's
wants to
something
believe in
about
Mike
him.
White. There's nothing
He's
wrong.
enigmatic, right? And
Yeah.
there's something about having a guy out there who has that a borderline ridiculous amount of belief in himself that it vibrates, right? I think everybody kind of feeds off of that a little bit. I think the Jets are going to come out to play here. I'm with you. I still think the Bills probably win, but the Jets are going to come out here to play. I got no doubt about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is just enough to where like Buffalo could bounce back right now, but this is so yeah. Winning wise, it'll probably be a good. This is oddly one of those where I feel like this could even be a positive for both teams. I think the Jets. You hate to have that morale victory kind of BS, but I feel like the Jets could play this well, take a loss, and still kind of feel good about the direction at least their
Oh,
team is starting
absolutely.
to go. Let's move on. So, talk about some interesting spreads here, and my upset pick of the week. Now, I'm not actually going to pick them, but we got the Detroit Lions going into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh getting -8 into this one. We learned about picking Detroit for our upset pick of the week, so I can't see that happening. I actually can't see Detroit doing much of anything. I don't think super highly of this Pitt team, but I think they'll still beat this Detroit team by more than 8 points. So give me Pitt.
I would not bet on this game again. This is another one of those lines I would not bet on.
Yeah.
But out of principle for that atrocity that happened on Monday, I will take the Detroit Lions just because.
Wow.
Just because I think the refereeing in that game could be a fun watch. I think like there was mass outrage after that Pittsburgh game. Deservedly so, by the way. That was ridiculous. I think you could see the pendulum swing the other way, where the referees maybe heard that and now feel a little bit like, okay, we can't call anything on Pittsburgh because they're gonna see it, right? They're gonna know. Uh, I think this could be one of those games where Pittsburgh just doesn't get any calls. Detroit keeps it close. They're not gonna win because they're Detroit, but 8 points. I mean, I hope they win, again, out of principle, because I think the Steelers need a loss on their record to balance out whatever the hell that was. I don't think they will. That being said, I'm picking Detroit out of principle.
Yeah, I mean, man, it'll be. Just wonder what Detroit is going to kind of do going forward, because this is kind of the one thing I think they didn't want to see was just like they've had like even I mean I suppose you could only take close losses and still like have that good feeling about it for so long, but God, they've had some very ugly losses on the record. Their team's looking just bad across the board. So yeah, I gotta think that Pitt's just gonna kind of run away with this one early, and we're not gonna be able to see too much. But they run away with it early enough. Detroit might be able to sneak back in there within the 8, but I'll still go with Pitt.
Like I said, whether I think this is going to happen or not, I can't. I need Pittsburgh to lose. To karmic justice balance out whatever the fuck that was. Pittsburgh needs to lose this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like Pittsburgh's throwing the flags, right? But I understand your feeling on that.
Yeah, no, I and don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't hate Pittsburgh. I I like
Now,
some of their players. I okay, I do hate Ben Roethlisberger, but I think that's fair. I think he deserves the hate that he gets.
what if Pittsburgh was wearing those ugly ass Bumblebee uniforms, but there's the
I'd like
stripes,
them
right?
more
If
because
if they were wearing stripes too,
I'm
like,
a big fan of horrendous uniforms. I'm one of those guys who it's like the worse your jersey looks like those Oregon jerseys. I'm a big fan of them. There was a World Hockey Championships one year where all the referees had cow jerseys. They were like spotted like cows instead of striped. Oh, amazing. Mwah. I love shit jerseys.
all right, yeah, yeah, that one's a funny ass one, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, and see, we got some ugly looking spreads, and we'll cover another one right here. We got the Tampa Bay Bucks going into Washington. Washington plus 9.5 on this game.
Eesh.
Tampa Bay been banged up, and they're still banged up. I think they're down one or two receivers.
No Antonio Brown, no
Brown,
Gronk,
Gronk.
no Rashad Robinson in the secondary either. Um, Chris Godwin is still questionable with his foot injury. He didn't practice today, so that doesn't look great.
I gotta imagine Godwin still plays, but yeah, I mean, if not able to go, then not able to go. You're talking about a team that has been, you know, on fire offensively, throwing the ball. You start to take away some of those options. It's tough, but we know Washington absolutely stinks. So give me Tampa Bay to actually still be able to make that happen, even with all the injuries at receiver. I still think they beat them by more than 9.5.
Um, this is an interesting one for me because there's another factor in this game that needs to be talked about, and that is this is the rematch of that postseason game last year, where Taylor Heineke made everybody believe for 4 quarters he could be a legitimate starting quarterback. Right? He he saw something in this Bucks defense that he was able to exploit. Now, whether that's still there or not, I don't know. But this could be an interesting little spot for the Washington football team where they have a little bit of confidence because of what happened in that playoff game, being so close to dethroning the Bucks, right? Taking them out. 9.5, you said?
9.5.
Do I think the Bucks win? Yes. Do I think they win by 9.5? No, I'll take the football team. I feel like they're gonna come into this game with a little bit of confidence after that playoff game, and I don't know. There's something about it to me that there's alarms ringing in my head. Um, I'm not sold on the Bucks this year at all. Two receivers and Gronk out. I got the alarm bells going. I'm gonna go with my gut on this one. I don't feel like it's right. I still feel like Tampa Bay wins this game, but the alarm bells are causing me to second guess it. And if you're gonna give me almost 10 points to say go with the alarm bells, I'm gonna go with the alarm bells.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big spread. Game could definitely be within that. I think one thing that's going to really factor in this game, both these teams have not played since Halloween. Both could be coming off of byes, which is a very interesting position. Usually, two teams coming off byes don't line up like they are right now. But obviously, Washington coming off of 4 straight losses and a loss to Denver being their last. Tampa also coming off a loss, but that loss against New Orleans, we kind of know that it seems like New Orleans has a little bit of a factor as far as being able to play Brady. I feel like
Can't beat him.
when you give him an extra week, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Brady's going to have a better opportunity of picking apart Washington, or do you think Washington is going to catch on to Tom Brady? I think Brady's going to be able to pick apart this Washington defense, and they have not looked as good as they were. If Washington was playing more like they were in tune to last year, obviously the spread wouldn't be that, and they wouldn't have as bad of a record as they do. But this Washington defense isn't quite the
No.
same. It's what we were expecting them to be. I see Brady coming back, having a very nice game off of a loss and a bye week here to be able to. Uh, I mean, I honestly think this is too tutty. 17-point win even for Tampa Bay.
Like I said, logically, I agree with you, but there's something not sitting right with me about this. The Bucks missing all their weapons. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a dominant Bucks win to me. It feels like one where they pull it out and everybody goes, "Yeah, Bucks win," but it doesn't sell you on them.
Give me Leonard Fournette going for like I would say Leonard Fournette for like 70 plus yards catch. Like he'll definitely have a little bit more of a game. Brady, they'll find a way to get him involved. And I like guys like OJ Howard are going to be able to step up a bit, get a little bit more.
Line 62.5 for Leonard Fournette, by the way, on the
Oh,
over-under.
bump it. Yeah, you take
You're
that
taking
over
the
right
over?
there. You take that over right there. That's a pretty beefy over on receiving. Is that all purpose or is that just receiving yards?
That's just rushing.
Oh,
25
just rushing. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
25. Yeah, I'm surprised.
25 and a half receiving.
No, I think he's well over that. I think he'll have actually a really good receiving game on this one,
Okay.
and probably a good rushing game as too. But I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
receiving, you're only getting 25 and a half.
I think it's interesting. I thought they would have a little bit more of a 1-2 with Jones as well. I thought that would be much more of a 50-50 split. That seems like a 2/3, 1/3 split. Fournette getting.
Yeah, it has been kind of a weird thing since they got Fournette, where Ronald Jones was like really good for them before Brady came in. He's just kind of been pushed to the back.
Yeah, just a bit. Let's see. Oof. And yeah, I think this is the last huge spread it looks like of the next week's slate. This one's interesting, and I got my reasons for it because you're talking about a very two actually changing quarterback situations going forward. You got the Carolina Panthers going into Arizona to face the Cardinals. Cardinals getting minus 10.5 at home.
Boy, oh boy.
So yeah, Carolina. Obviously, you got the Darnold injury. You got Cam coming back. Obviously, that's going to be pretty quick going in there. I don't believe he's designated to be the starter for this game. But I don't know as far as like how short of a leash you're going to give it. And if they do get enough development with Cam, if he can seize this field kind of early. Arizona obviously having Colt McCoy come out of friggin' nowhere and stomp my Niners. But I think they're going with Murray. I think Murray's on slate to start this week.
Game time decision, both him and Nuke Hopkins.
10.5 is a tough one. I think because that quarterback situation is pretty nebulous. You got a Carolina defense that actually has been pretty good. I like Carolina on that spread, so I'll take the Panthers.
It's an interesting one, right? Because on one hand, 10 and a half, you said?
Yeah, big spread.
On one hand, if Murray and Nuke Hopkins play, 10 and a half seems pretty easy. You would think. Because Carolina's playing PJ Walker. And no offense to the XFL, but I'm I'm not sold on PJ Walker as a NFL quarterback.
No, I think, and that's what I'm saying. I think he has a little bit of a short leash. I think if you get Cam in the building, he's going to be dressed for that game and good to go. I like Cam to get in there and be a nice little bump to this Panthers team. This Panthers
Yeah,
team has shown the ability to go, and they got McCaffrey back.
I do have CMC back.
It's gonna, I don't know, man. Like they're just the team that could, and the Cardinals have had some close-ish games, as good as they've been, and they were for you're talking about a team that was undefeated until not too long ago. But even in those wins when they were going undefeated, um, some close games in there. So I think Carolina has the ability to keep this within 10.5.
I'm going to go with you on this one because you mentioned that defense. And that Carolina defense is good. They can shut a team down when they are on, right? And they haven't played many games this year where they haven't kept teams to low scoring games, right? Like there was a couple of them in the middle of the season there, but there's a lot of 7 points, 9 points, 14 points, 20 points, right? It's a good defense. I think they can do enough, especially if they got Colt McCoy back there again, right? Like you can't imagine Colt 45's going off again. I think the Panthers can do enough to hold this within 10.
All right, and we start to get to some pretty tight spreads as we go into the final 5 games of the week here. We got Minnesota going down to LA, face off against the Chargers. Chargers -3 at home. This one is, man, I'm kind of surprised. Like you have like the craziness with the Dalvin Cook situation. You have a Vikings team that's only 3-5, but this Charger team's absolutely been underperforming. Not looked good some weeks. I still think that they're good enough, though. They should handle this Vikings team. So give me the Chargers at that -3. I think they are able to handle, at least win by something like 6 or so against this Vikings team.
Problem with this Chargers team is it's just a team that does not win games big. I think their biggest win of the year was the 14 against the Raiders, and then other than that, they won by 4,
Hmm.
6, 5, and 3. Right? They don't really pull away from teams. That being said, at -3, I think the Chargers definitely have enough to beat the Vikings by a field goal. I'm not very bullish on this Vikings team. Uh, if it was any more than 3, I'd start to get a little bit questionable of it. At 3, I'll take the Chargers.
What's very interesting about this one, and it's kind of why I was hesitating, kind of going back and forth, taking a look at it. The Chargers, surprisingly enough, the worst team against the run this season. And if there's one thing the Vikings do, is run the rock.
Oh, why'd you tell me that after I locked in Chargers?
Right. So that's something that threw me off. Also, this Vikings team second most sacks this season. So against a guy like Herbert, you wonder if they get there. Herbert has shown some ability to make some mistakes, and you know that the Chargers are going to be looking to pass the ball because for some reason with Austin Eckler, they decide not to run it. So it's a little bit of a worrying game. The thing is, the Chargers have played like so just they just haven't looked good in a lot of their games, and Minnesota's kind of just has some letdowns. I feel a little bit better about the Chargers being able to actually switch their gears a little bit, maybe run the rock a little bit more, and the Vikings, just as far as their offense is concerned, I'm really not too concerned about I mean, yeah, they put up 31 points against Baltimore. That's a little bit better than I remembered that game being. But yeah, they obviously they were hanging in there against that Baltimore team. This is why this yeah, and this is why this is one of those tough spreads, as I was saying.
Yep.
Like -3, man, that's right there. I think home is going to be a bit of a factor here for the Chargers. I think that's gonna help out a bit. Oh man. Oh, oof.
I'm sticking with it.
Man, yeah, that's a tough one.
3 is right on the borderline, right? Like if you said 4, I'd be struggling with it. But 3, because I think the Chargers will win, right? So what are they going to win by 2? Right? Like 3 points, field goal win sounds about right.
yeah, yeah, we'll
Like
stick.
I don't think the Vikings are outright winning this, so
Yeah, yeah, we'll stick with the Chargers on that. All right, I'll try and talk myself out of it, but we'll stick with it there. Um, Move on and kind of one of the surprising above 500 teams of the season for sure. You have the Denver Broncos going to be hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly coming into Denver. Denver getting -2.5 there at home. Eagles obviously having a game that they look so close to being able to steal a win there and just not quite getting it at the end. The Broncos shocking everybody against that Cowboys team on the road and now coming back to Mile High. Um, that spread looks pretty good to me, though. I really like Denver in this one at the -2.5 to be able to take it.
100%. The Broncos are an average team. The Eagles are not a great team. I'll take the average team in that situation. I know that they've looked better since they've started running the ball more, but ultimately, I still think the Eagles are exactly what they look like, what their record says, right?
Right.
I don't care that they're playing games close. Their record is about where I expect the Eagles to be. The Broncos' record is about where I expect the Broncos to be, right? 4-5, 5-4. They're gonna end the season somewhere between 8-9 and 9-8, I would imagine, right? So, it, you got an average team versus a below average team. 2.5, I'll take the Broncos.
I like it. And we'll just keep it moving right there. I just think just enough stuff. I think Bridgewater's going to be able to keep them above water. Bridgewater above water. Um, yeah, and the Eagles are just. It's a shame because I think that's a team that has shown that they can kind of. There's pieces there, and I'm kind of positive on Hurd. I mean, Hurd is in a bad situation now. It's not as bad as the Trevor Lawrence situation, but I'm just like I'm kind of hopeful for the kid. I think he could start having some better offensive. I mean, early on it was bad. It was as bad as it could be. I can't remember what that early season stat line was for him, but it's like single digit yards or something like that. I can't remember what that game was. Something bad for Hurd. Um, I gotta figure they'll do a bit better than that going forward. But even Hurd himself, if this is the direction that Philly's gonna go and they start actually running the rock, it's only gonna help the kid. It seems like so. We'll see if they actually continue that trend. That's kind of the most interesting thing for me is brought up earlier. You lose your starting running back and then all of a sudden you start just running the rock. Hopefully when Sanders comes back, they at least keep a little bit of that because I think they'll really help Hurd back there.
Yeah, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I get a I get a big like Rodney Heat vibe off of Jalen Hurts as far as being a starter.
Hmm.
He he can run the ball, he can throw it all right. But if you're a good team, you're not starting Rodney Pete. That's how I feel about Jalen Hurts, to be honest with you. Could be wrong, right? He could develop into something, but like that's just what I see out of him, right?
And oddly enough,
He
this line moved on us too. Sorry, I guess it's now -2, not -2.5. So even better.
even better. More reason to take the Broncos.
Yes.
I don't know. I just like I said, I'll take the average team every time in this situation.
All right. One of my two upsets of the week right here, and I hate to do it because it kind of hurts me internally. Seattle Seahawks going into Green Bay to face the Packers. Packers -3.5 at home. Give me the Seahawks on the points to spread. Give me the Seahawks to win outright. Comeback game for Russell Wilson.
Russ is back.
I believe so.
Oh no, that changes everything.
I believe so. This is not a Geno Smith game. That's why this line is so close, I believe. A 3-5 Seahawks team, I think, goes into Green Bay and takes one against the Pack, who are good, but I don't know if they are quite 7-2 advertised good. And they do have Rodgers still kind of up in the air because of the COVID protocol.
They
He won't
expect him
be
to be play on Sunday.
he will be cleared by Saturday. If there's anything health wise that's still affecting him, I think he's said that he's potentially not going to go.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. I like the Seahawks to win outright on an
Oh,
upset.
I wish I didn't know Russell Wilson was coming back because this was such an easy pick before that.
Exactly.
Oh God. So Russell Wilson's back. Does that change all of the issues with the Seahawks?
It certainly helps.
It helps.
Russell Wilson being, before he got injured,
This
by and
is
far the best rated quarterback in the league before he got
y-
injured.
oh, 100%. This is still a team that can't run the football,
No.
right? This is still a team that gave up 30 to the Vikings and 33 to the Titans, right? 26 to the Rams. They can leak points from time to time against good offenses. Aaron Rodgers is back. Does that make the Packers a good offense? Probably. He's probably good enough to make a team a good offense on his own. Same thing with Russell Wilson, to be honest with you.
That offense hasn't been that good this season. They really haven't. Even with Rodgers in, they've been a
24, 24,
below.
24, 25, 27, 30. Yeah, they don't blow you away with points, do they?
No, their defense has stepped up quite nicely. That's kind of actually how they've been winning their games. Their defense has been pretty damn good, but this offense for Seattle is going to be a lot better than what their stats have shown lately. I think they show up and really in a fight to kind of keep this season going for them. I think they get the upset. And I hate that. This
Give me
is
give me
this
COVID
is
Rodgers. I
this
don't
is
know.
Niners fan picking the Seahawks right here in an upset.
I
I
I
hate to
think
do it.
I think Rodgers is coming back. I think he's pissed, right? Everything that's happened over the last 2 weeks, which by the way is all his fault. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend anything Aaron Rodgers said. That was the dumbest thing, like the dumbest line of comments to ever come out of anyone's mouth. But I think it'll actually piss him off. And Aaron Rodgers pissed off is a scary thing because he is one of those few guys who gets really emotional when he plays. And I think if Aaron Rodgers is pissed off, I think he takes it. Give me the Packers. I don't
All
love it.
right.
I don't love it, but give me the Packers.
All right. Nice. So you got that. Yeah, that's going to be a spicy game right there. That's going to be a good one in that afternoon slate. We go to the Sunday night game. Chiefs going into Vegas Vegas getting plus 2.5 at home. Who do you got in this one? I'm a little interested. I already got my pick locked in, but I'm interested because I know this is what we were talking about. We might have a little differing opinion on this.
Give me the Las Vegas
Look
Raiders.
at that.
I have no faith in this Chiefs team. Zero whatsoever. I think a lot of what happened to the Raiders last week was circumstances of what's been happening around the organization, losing Arnett, losing Henry Ruggs, losing all that. They get a chance, they get a new week to clear their mind, fresh slate, bring in Deshaun Jackson, who will be a good leader to help them get through all this. He's been through the shit in the past. He knows what he's doing out here. Chiefs defense sucks. Chiefs offense isn't great. Give me Las Vegas. I think the Raiders find a way to pull this out at home.
I respect it. I've been kind of wanting to go behind, and think that this Raiders team is going to kind of keep it going. Um, I think timing wise, and I like the idea, the thought of a team comes off of a letdown game and they come back the next week and it really pumps them up. The only thing, this is the Raiders. And granted, it's not the same head coach Raiders, but this has been the Raiders' MO for like the last 3 seasons. They look great in the first half, and then they start to slip by the time you get about halfway of the season. That loss to the Giants, writing on the wall right there. Worst time to take a loss against a team that you gotta beat that Giants team. And it's the worst time to face the Chiefs because the Chiefs just came off a 13-7 game that they deserved to not win whatsoever. Even against Jordan Love, it's kind of absurd that they were able to do nothing in the second half offensively, still win that game by 6 points, and they didn't even put up a good first half number. 13 points in the first half isn't a good offensive number for this Chiefs team, as bad as their defense has been. And yet they still won that game. I think this is the worst timing game that the Raiders could have against the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs take the upset. Not the upset. They're actually the favorites here. I think they still win by more than 2.5 going into Vegas. Unfortunately, I think because I wanted the Raiders for this not to be the season where this starts to happen, but I think this is the same old Raiders that we've seen the last few seasons. They're going to start slumping, and this is right about the time they start doing it.
I'm done believing in the Chiefs. I'm just done with it. I honestly now believe they are just an average team.
That could be the case. Absolutely.
I think the Raiders are a bit better than average. I don't think they're great, but okay. I think they're a bit better than average. So I'll take, again, similarly to my Eagles and Broncos pick, where I just picked the team who I think is the slightly better team. I think the Raiders are the slightly better team here, so I'm going to take the Raiders. I've given up on believing the Chiefs are anything other than what they're showing us this year.
I like it. So another split there. And this one, Monday night.
This one I'm curious about.
Santa Clara, where the LA Rams come in to play the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers plus 3.5 at home. That's right. It's our second upset pick of the week.
Ah, of course you are.
As the Niners hold home court out of nowhere after losing their last 10-11 at home. Hold it against this Rams team that is buying up players left and right, giving no damn about draft picks or their future. The Niners hold it at home for the win and for the, non-LA teams that seem to just spend a bunch of money and think that's how they're going to win championships. Go Niners.
Rams 34-10. It's going to be ugly. I said it. I don't like this Niners team. I have resigned to the fact that they're just not good. And the Rams are good. And much to your as you've said in a couple of these other picks, they're gonna come in pissed. The Bills are gonna come in pissed off after an upset loss last week. The Chiefs should have lost, and they're gonna come in pissed. But the Rams, nah, they're not gonna feel anything after what happened to the Titans. They're fine. Rams are gonna be pissed. Matt Stafford played a bad game, and he's not gonna be happy about it. I think the Rams win this one laughing.
We will see it going forward. Um, I just gotta show Craig how to be a true homer and pick your team no matter what.
I respect it, but when we're talking betting, nah, I pick the team that I think's gonna win.
I actually, I even don't mind this spread so much. Niners
It is
have
an interesting one, right?
Niners
San
have
Francisco at
lost
home.
Niners have lost a lot of close games
Yep.
this season. So 3.5 is a very interesting spread for them because there's plenty of those times where they have given up that late field goal tutty right at the end to unfortunately lose these games, or just not been able to finish out maybe a last drive, with 20 seconds or whatever left, getting stops, against Aaron Rodgers and that sort of thing. So we'll see how that goes down. But yeah, I like my Niners to step up a little bit more, kind of show that they're not uh, potentially the worst team in the NFC West here. Given if things shake out how I think with the Seahawks taking that game against Green Bay, Niners were to lose that, you'd have to say that Niners are fourth right there. So hoping that's not the case. We'll see going forward. But there we go. So we've picked across the board. The ones we are split on, we are equaled up on everything else. But we got I'm taking Pitt. Craig taking Detroit. Pitt -8 there. I'm taking Tampa Bay. Craig taking Washington. Washington plus 9.5 there. We got I'm taking Seattle. Craig taking Green Bay. Green Bay -3.5 there. I'm taking KC. Craig taking Las Vegas. Las Vegas 2.5 there. And I'm taking San Francisco. Craig taking the Rams. San Francisco plus 3.5 there.
Yep. It's an interesting week. There's quite a few games that on paper don't look great, but there's still somehow interesting storylines in them, right? I mentioned it with the Tampa Bay Washington game, right? Obviously, this being the game where we all got introduced to Taylor Heineke,
Yeah.
right? Was Tampa Bay Washington. Atlanta Dallas, somehow the odds makers think Dallas is just going to come in there and blitz Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's not really Atlanta's MO. Their MO is more to actually play good teams well, look like they're going to win it and piss that away. So I don't know why Dallas is getting so many points against Atlanta. Um and then yeah, the Jets and Bills, right? Divisional rivalry, and the Jets in the last few weeks have come out to play, right? So you can take the game that Mike White got hurt in, and throw that one out. That was kind of a weird one. But as a whole, the Jets have been coming out to play recently. So I don't know. There's some games in here that intrigue me to say the least. And then obviously Las Vegas and Kansas City, I think, has all the storylines in it, right? Las Vegas going through everything they're going through. The Chiefs really not looking like a good team, right? They have shown nothing to prove that they are contenders this year. There's some fascinating games this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think some of those big spreads too. I mean, it's amazing when you're creating spreads that are that large between teams because you feel like there's such a talent differential there. Still making them interesting to bet
Yeah.
as far as on the line is concerned, and we got a couple of those splits here, so we'll see going forward. Got a few topics I want to touch upon as we start to close down the
Yeah.
last part here. Kind of brought this up earlier. Where you've talked about a little bit of OBJ to the Rams. Curious your thoughts here, and as a Giants fan and having to deal with the Dodgers for so long, and now kind of seeing it from the Rams. I'm interested in what your thoughts are in this um, this seemingly, this pattern we're seeing from LA teams that feel like they could just buy their way to championships and yet fail to do so. Do you feel like the Rams have done enough with grabbing pieces, really just kind of selling out the future to really give a run at this year? Do you think it blows up in their face, or do you think that these guys are now your Super Bowl favorites as far as the NFC is concerned?
So they were my Super Bowl favorites in the NFC before the OBJ thing.
Okay.
I think I mentioned that last week.
Yeah, I think you did.
I thought the Von Miller trade, by the way, was perfect for them. They had a hole at linebacker. Von Miller fills it perfectly. He's not the same guy he once was, but he's still Von Miller. He'll still do you a job. I don't get the OBJ thing. He was bitching in Cleveland about being the third wide receiver. Meet Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, dude. You ain't getting ahead of them. I don't get how this changes anything for him outside of the fact that he has a chance to win a ring. So if he's
Yeah.
ring chasing, this is a good call for him, right? This was probably the best situation he could go to ring chase. Except for maybe like Tampa Bay or something like that, but I don't think Tampa Bay could even afford to bring in another wide receiver, right?
I mean, we'd say that, but I wouldn't think the Rams had any possibility of making a move either. They've
They
been
still got a
caps.
few guys who are on cheap contracts who are going to be due soon, and that'll be interesting, right? Cooper Kupp's contract isn't massive. Robert Woods, I don't even know what Robert Woods' contract is, but I can't imagine it's huge, right? They're going to have a reckoning coming up soon with the salary cap, but right now they're relatively okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the OBJ thing. I don't even really think he helps the Rams that much, right? Like I don't think bringing in Odell Beckham makes the Rams a significantly better team. It gives them another option, sure, but
I think that's just it. I think it's a little bit of a security blanket. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, who knows what he's thinking, but I can't imagine OBJ is going to see many numbers, as far as catches, that sort of thing, at least in the current situation. It could play out to a very much like a depth play. You
yeah,
know, people get injured in the NFL all the time. You're going to have a guy who's been in the building potentially in OBJ that's been learn the playbook. I got to imagine, like, even though maybe depth chart wise, he's going to be slotted in, what, third, fourth, probably third. I think you still imagine that where he'll line up will be very much in perhaps a 1-2 slot when they do bring him in rotation, that sort of thing. Um, so it'll be interesting if they have an injury, if he's able to kind of slot in there and they don't take too much of a hit. So that could be kind of interesting down the line. But yeah, I think in their current makeup, their current build, not going to be much of a factor. Might make defenses think a little bit more about him if he's out there. You're going three wide. He happens to be out there along with those two. It's a lot of talent out there for what you would think that Beckham can be if he is able to rise to the occasion that he's shown in the past. But we haven't seen that OBJ for a little bit, right? So it seems like the Rams are excited. That's another thing, as much as, people are like, oh, he's locker room problem, that sort of thing. For at least this initial part, I got to imagine that he could be a nice little boost to the team as far as, because they seem to want him.
yeah,
Players want him in the building. So that could be something. And given, I know I just picked the Niners in this next game coming up, I don't think it'll be that much of a factor maybe right away. But yeah, down the line when we start really getting into those December games, you maybe have a couple injuries to your team, where he's going to slot in then, because I don't think it'll be much of a offensive factor as far as numbers right now for sure.
yeah. It could be one of those things where he pulls some safety help away from Cooper Kupp or vice versa, and it opens up a little bit more of the field potentially. But like I said, if his problem was in Cleveland being behind Peoples Jones and Jarvis Landry, I got bad news for you, because you ain't ahead of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I'm sorry, you're going in to be at best wide receiver three, right? That's why when we were mentioning OBJ, I thought the Packers made sense. He goes in
Yeah,
there, he's
he
number
does.
two, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy who's right beside Devonte Adams on that depth chart in terms of talent, right? If
Yeah.
that's what you want to go to a team where you can be a contender and still be a focal point. New England, Green Bay, those are the places that make sense. Los Angeles Rams, you're in the same position. You're still the third guy, right? Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how Odell's temperament handles being the third guy, but he is the third guy and a distant third guy at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, and as far as kind of to my original point, um, I don't know if for as much as they have really kind of hemorrhaged the future of the team, I'm not sure this was worth it for the Rams to. And it's been before Von Miller and OBJ here. Them going forward, I just wonder how drastic the fall off is going to be. But the Rams are able to get if they're able to get a Super Bowl now, I mean that's gonna be big for them. That'll buy them some time, but you gotta imagine that's gonna be like jumping regime to regime. How long do you have a Matt Stafford for going at that level? How many pieces are you going to be able to keep around him as far as that team is concerned to keep them going? I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, they better do it this season. Otherwise, I really don't see it happening for them for quite a bit.
You want to know what the secret is that the Rams know that I think some other teams are starting to learn? This draft class sucks. This has all-time bad draft class written all over it. The Rams, I think, looked at this draft class and went, "There's nothing here. It's
Yeah.
barren in places. And if we're gonna be picking late first round, anyways, like late second round, we're picking the scraps of the scraps. Let's just go for it, right? We can use these draft picks to make us better now, and we can come back next year and when the class looks a little bit stronger, right? And maybe really sink our teeth into that. I'm perfectly fine with the Rams balking at this year's draft because it just doesn't look like it is much of a draft.
Let's see. Another, just want to kind of hit quickly on it. We're kind of at the we got some teams that have played 9 games, others that have played 8. So we're pretty much right here at the halfway point of the season. Just kind of taking a look, some interesting things that have popped out. I'm taking a look at some of these season stat leaders. You got guys like Derek Carr that kind of pops off the page to me. Actually, third most passing yards in the league right now. Maybe not the touchdown numbers you want to see there, but something interesting there to see him toward the top. You have guys like even a Carson Wentz right there outside or right there at number 10, actually. Teddy Bridgewater, actually, right outside the top 10. Kind of to what you've talked about and we've talked about. We got Tannehill and Kirk Cousins right there, kind of right in the middle of the pack. Those
They're
those
middling
middling
quarterback.
quarterbacks. Uh, Mac Jones, despite being a rookie, being right there, kind of below them. Um, even a guy like Daniel Jones, oddly enough, doing better than a Ben Roethlisberger at this point in the season, as far as yards, playing another game than Ben has, granted, but still, as far as QB rating and overall stat wise, um, not too far off there as far as the passing numbers. One thing that stood out to me right now, as far as rushing is concerned, you got two backs in Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb that are over 100 yards per game.
Or
Clear,
Derrick Henry, man. This was his MVP year. This
yeah,
was his MVP. He was gonna win it.
yeah,
If if he kept doing what he was doing and stayed healthy and everything kind of broke out the way he was gonna win the MVP this year. He won't now, obviously, but
yeah.
I feel for the guy because and I'm glad you brought this up because this was something I wanted to talk about. Um, the MVP race this year is weird.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
there's no real standout. Like the two names off the top of my head that come out are Tom Brady and Matt Stafford. But even they're not blowing everybody away. I will say, I'll just throw this out here right now. I think one interesting name to look at for potential MVP candidacy is Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And I know it's been a while since we've had a defensive MVP. I think the only person even close in this decade was J.J. Watt. Myles Garrett is having a statistical anomaly of his. He's already up to like 12 sacks. We're 9 games in.
I'm.
He's
I will say, Miles. He's top of the sacks right now. Sticking the defensive side. What about T.J. Watt?
EJ's another.
Half sack less, but played 2 games less. 3 forced fumbles, 4 pass deflections on the year.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
He's
Um,
going off this season, and getting back there, tackles for loss as well. Um, I would almost say TJ. You could argue as well right there with Myles Garrett, but yeah, Myles Garrett fucking monster season right now.
he's been unbelievable. And the other thing to remember with Myles Garrett that I think is of note, and I know, um, it, it's not something you should look at when you're talking about the MVP, but that whole defensive line has been battered for Cleveland. Without Myles Garrett, there's nothing there, right? There it's being held together by tape and bubble gum, right? And what he's done on that defensive line has been absolutely unbelievable. He leads the league in tackles for loss as well. He leads the league in sacks. He leads the league in um what was the other stat that they gave? Tackle percentage.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
like when he puts his hands on a guy, he takes him down something
takes it
like
up.
50% of the time,
Yeah,
50-60% of the time. That's insane. Like think about how many times a guy reaches out and touches a guy. That counts to your tackle percentage. Like when you reach out and you swing and you swipe at a guy, that counts. He's at like 50%.
yeah.
He's been ridiculous this year. Do I think he'll win it? No. Obviously not, because it's a quarterback award, right? The only person who could have won it was Derrick Henry. Um, However, I will throw it out there that Myles Garrett, and you're right, TJ Watt deserves a ton of recognition for that. And they're not going to get it. And that sucks. But hey, welcome to the world of 2021. So that being
Yeah.
said, if I had to pick a MVP right now, Matt Stafford. Close second, Tom Brady.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That might be the case for the MVP race right now. One thing I will bring up really quickly, um, take a look at those running backs though, because I feel like, I mean, it's not the sexiest position anymore, but it's kind of interesting this year just to kind of take a look at the stats. So you have D Henry, unfortunate injury. Chubb, who's dinged up himself, and yeah, looking out. Dalvin Cook, who has his legal troubles and the stuff that he's going through. Then you got right there, all kind of as far as average yards per game. Jonathan Taylor, and then it falls off quite a bit, but then you got Eli Mitchell, Zeke Elliott, obviously dealing with some injuries, and David Montgomery, and then Lamar Jackson. It's once you start to get kind of through the Henry Chubb, like kind of layer right there, you're talking about sub 100-yard runners, unfortunately. And honestly, out of all of them, who looks the most impressive? Jonathan Taylor has had a nice little bounce
What
back.
a beast he's been this year.
Like what? Yeah, I think more than even. Yeah, going forward, like I think Indy is in a real nice position with Taylor in the backfield. There, that's a guy who could go. He'll be able to carry that rock for quite a while. Um, as much as I like Eli Mitchell to kind of be like maybe the next top guy, I think Taylor actually is quite nice back there, and he should continue to have a nice season. I would imagine if he continues to stay a little bit healthier there, might be there right below your Henry and Chubb as your third best back.
I will throw out there another name who's having a really good season, and again, somebody I've mentioned before is Najee Harris
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
Pittsburgh,
So
right? Like Najee Harris is what's keeping that Pittsburgh offense alive at times. And I know he took a lot of slack early in the season, but let's remember this Pittsburgh offensive line is not good. And Najee Harris manages to sneak his way through, find holes, find seams. He makes things happen. And he's another one of those young guys like you were talking about, like Jonathan Taylor, like Elijah Mitchell, if he can ever get the ball consistently. Um, who could be in that next crop of guys who could push Henry and Chubb, which is sad saying that because Henry is 27 and Chubb is 26, but let's face it, they're getting to the old part of their of their running back careers, right?
yeah.
Not many running backs go beyond 30 these days.
And then hitting real quick just to kind of go over the remaining uh, top receivers of this half season. Quite interesting. This is a top three as far as yards is concerned that you would not have expected going in. You start to go below that, you start to see some familiar faces. But Cooper Cup at over 1,000 yards already has played 9 games, so has played maybe one more game than some other. My boy Debo Samuel, the only guy who could do
Saving
any.
grace of San Francisco this year.
The only guy. I mean, granted, Kittle's been out for most of the season, so you haven't had much other reliable receivers for him to go to, no matter who's back there for San Francisco. But Debo Samuel looking great, and Jamar Chase for all the things that they were saying to him about him in the preseason, making Burrow look a bit better there, being a nice reliable go-to for him, and making some really nice catches. So very interesting there at the top three. Then you got Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. You got some
Yep.
more known names there, but very interesting top three there as far as your top receivers for halfway through the season.
And again, another person I want to shout out here, somebody who for years now, it feels like it's been years. It hasn't been that long, but it feels like it's been years. That everybody's been waiting to break out and waiting to break out and waiting to break out. Hollywood Brown is having a really, like, not as flashy as Cooper Cup is, but having a really solid year. And I feel like it's been years now of, oh, when's Hollywood Brown going to break out? Can he ever be a number one receiver? Damn, looks like it this year. So shouts out to Hollywood Brown. But Cooper Cup is another one of those guys who deserves MVP nominations and is not gonna get them. Cooper Cup has been ridiculous this year for the Rams. He's unguardable, right? You can't cover him, right? I've seen teams double him. I've seen teams play strict zone with him. What do? You can't stop him right now, right? Cooper Cup has been unbelievable this year. Deserves MVP nominations. Not going to get him because it's a quarterback award. But I'm glad you brought up the receiving core because Cooper Cup and Debo Samuel deserve a ton of shouts out. Jamar Chase too. I feel like
Oh yeah,
saying that leaves out Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase as a rookie is going to win Rookie of the Year. If he keeps up this pace, he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
and
He,
there's been some impressive rookies this season, but yeah, he
yeah,
has to stand out for sure.
yeah, no. There absolutely has been. Kyle Pitts, obviously, I'm a Atlanta fan. Kyle Pitts has had a great year, but Jamar Chase is gonna win
Yeah,
the Rookie of the Year again, assuming he keeps up even half of this pace, really, right? Like let's say Jamar Chase down the stretch. So we're roughly halfway through. Let's say he adds another 500 to that, right? He tapers off a little bit, doesn't adds another 500. 1335 as a rookie for receiving yards, you're gonna win Rookie of the Year, right? He's been very good. Yeah. But I do think what Cooper Cup's doing deserves a little bit more attention than it's getting, and I'm glad you brought up the receiving yards because I'm all here for the Cooper Cup love. I'm all here for the Debo Samuel love. Uh, the fact that Debo only has 4 receiving touchdowns this year makes me sad because he's been so good. Like
yeah.
give him like, get him in the end zone a little bit, please.
I mean, yeah, like he should have had 5 on one of his nice little screens that was for like 70, 80 yards there.
Yeah.
I could think he got cut off at like the half-yard line. So it's like, that could have been another tutty there. That would have been nice. But yeah, I mean, kind of uh, example of one fault that the Niners have had. We have had some haphazard red zone offense that hasn't gone too well for us. Getting stopped on some fourth downs, having to kick some field goals where it looked like we were getting touchdowns. So that Devo number kind of leans into that. A guy who goes for that many yards, but our offense hasn't been able to finish off with touchdowns, and him not getting those touchdowns is a little bit of a sign of it. Kind of just one example, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're talking about some of these players, only having 8 games, some having 9 games, but it's about halfway through the season, so I
It's
thought
good.
take a look at that. And last one little thing I want to bring up, and just a small thing, just kind of switch gears here. I got an interesting one tonight, and I've been getting into the Dubs a little bit more because my Niners have been doing so trash. We got the Warriors playing host to the Bulls in a really awesome game tonight. 7 o'clock start, so tip off in about 2 hours here. The 10-1 Warriors hosting the Bulls there. It should be a really awesome game that I'm looking forward to having up on the side screen here. How has I know the Raptors, you guys are floating a little bit above 500, I think, right now, just came off a dub.
I believe we are now exactly at 500 after that,
Okay.
and I believe that puts us 7-7, something like that. 7-6. Yeah, we are a game above 500. You're correct. 7-6.
So yeah, just to bring up, looking forward to that game tonight. Don't have I couldn't bring too much analysis. I think Wiggins had a nice game against the T Wolves, game or two back. That was a nice little kind of in your face game after the bad kind of started a career that Wiggins has had, and obviously
I
love to
mean,
see my Dubs going well, and we're only going to get Clay back, so looking forward to see how if we're able to get to 11-1 tonight against a
well,
damn good Bulls team.
very early in the season, but if you were
Yeah.
going to name an MVP at this point in the season, it'd be Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's been back to being next level ridiculous this year. But I'm glad you brought up this game because can we take a second to shouts out to the Chicago Bulls, who I don't think anybody would have predicted to be 8-3 at this point in the year, but here we are. The Bulls are the best team in the East. They've kind of gone anti modern day basketball. They don't have many great 3-point shooters, right? Like they have Caruso, who's a bit of a sharpshooter on the bench, but like Lonzo Ball doesn't light it up from three. DeMar DeRozan's never been a great 3-point shooter, right? They Zach LaVine's obviously known more for the highlight dunks than he is for his shooting ability. He can shoot, but it's not his bread and butter. They've built this team that's just based on players who they could get for cheap because they're not analytics darlings. And I do wonder if this is a bit of a wave of the future, right? Where you can find players who break the meta of some of these leagues, right? As analytics becomes a bigger thing. And I'm not, make no mistake by this, I'm not anti analytics. I believe analytics are fantastic for sports, right? They give another tool to GMs to be able to fully assess teams. And I think the really great GMs will be able to use it correctly. But guys like DeRozan, guys like Ball, guys like LaVine are very good players who don't fit the mold of what the modern day NBA is. But when in the right system, when used correctly, I still think there's success to be had there. So I'm happy to see the Bulls doing it. They're not moneyballing per se because they still spent a lot of money on those guys. But the idea is there, right? Take what everybody thinks, turn it on its head. Um, I like this Bulls team. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be a playoff team,
Yeah.
and I'm happy for them. Because it's an interesting little thing they're doing here. Interesting little social experiment. As for my Raptors, if I can talk about them really quickly, because I love this team. They're 7-6, and I know a lot of people are going to look at that and go, well, "Why do you love them?" Because they're not supposed to be good. They're a young team. Scotty Barnes is a guy who is gonna be the fucking dude one day. I love Scotty Barnes. He needs to work on his jump shot a little bit. He needs to get a little bit more offensive, but he reminds me of a young Kawhi Leonard. And I know a lot of people will go, well, that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard's offensive game was shit in his first year in the NBA. It came around. But when you have guys like Kevin Durant coming out and saying, like, this guy is one of the best defenders I've played against this year, it tells you something. Scotty Barnes has a little something there. I love my Raptors team. It's a young team that's trying to find out what they are. We're not going to be a great team this year, but I like them. They're fun to watch. So shouts out to them. You said that was the last topic you had?
Yeah, I think as far as some other things we'll cover. What'd you have in your mind?
Well, I got two in particular. UFC 268 was this Saturday.
That's
I
right.
meant to bring it up last week and I forgot, but I'll bring up the results because it was a fun card. The UFC recently has been interesting where their pay-per-views haven't always delivered recently, right? The big cards sometimes have fallen flat. This card that they put out was on paper stacked to the gills, and in practice stacked to the gills. It was awesome. Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler went out and beat the fuck out of each other for 15 minutes. It was unbelievably great fight. Justin Gaethje is honestly, I hope he doesn't get lost in the shuffle. From that loss with Nurmagomedov, because he is the most fun fighter in the UFC and one of the best. Big ups to Michael Chandler for staying with him in that fight. Marlon Vera turned Frankie Edgar's face into putty with a disgusting front kick that just, oh my lord, that was gross looking. And then the two title fights, right? Rose Namajunas and Weili Zhang. I actually had Weili Zhang winning that fight. I'm surprised Namajunas won. But it wasn't, I'm not going to call robbery. It wasn't egregious, but it was a good fight. And then Kamaru Usman beating Colby Covington. Is there ever anything better than watching Colby Covington lose? No. Yeah, no, it was a really good UFC card. And I think, I've been very quick to criticize UFC. People who know me recently, they're putting on cards that are using names at the top and then they're very barren underneath.
Yeah.
But this was one where they delivered. They put together a card that was full right down to the prelims. Alex Pereira, you mentioned the flying kick that Pereira won with earlier when talking about the Bears thing. Alex Pereira is legit, right? And you had Bobby Green, Ally Quinta. You had a lot of fun undercard fights. So I'll give the UFC props for that one. Fun card. It was worth watching for sure. I'm glad I did watch it. One last thing. The jersey I'm wearing this week is obviously the Canada soccer jersey. We talk about football on this podcast a lot, but we don't talk about European football much. But it is
The reason for that.
Big boy time in World Cup qualifiers right now. Canada plays Costa Rica tonight. USA, Mexico, obviously. Always a big game in terms of the qualifiers. But for the first time in my lifetime, Canada has a legit shot of qualifying for a World Cup. They qualified for a World Cup once in 1986, proceeded to get smoked. This is a really good Canada soccer team. And they're playing Costa Rica. In my hometown, in Edmonton, they're here right now. They're down the street. I wish I could go, but the tickets sold out in 10 minutes. Right now I'm fully invested in World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF. I hope Canada does it. I hope we pull it out. I will be cheering for the USA tonight because I think a USA win is better than a Mexico win for Canada. So, go USA, go Canada. Let's hope our countries pull some dubs tonight, get us closer to a World Cup, and come World Cup time, Tap. That's what we're talking about on here. We're talking some World Cup.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's all I had. Oilers are awesome. In case you guys don't follow hockey, the Edmonton Oilers rule. We're too good for the sport. You guys are gonna have to start coming up with some better teams soon because it's getting embarrassing. We're 10-2. Come on.
and we might have to cut the podcast here, but I think we want to end on this. If you guys did not see this, I gotta show you this Mike Barnett head kick was something of beauty.
Yes, the Barnett. That's the one you were. Yes.
That's the one I was talking about. So
yes.
There we are right here. The sound, the call's actually pretty great on it too. Because I think right before
John Volante.
Right before this, I think they're saying, Barnett, he needs to like start getting active, and then he goes out and he does this.
Back with some combinations, and then he lets John Volante back in.
Just ball he wants. He's just swinging.
There's something particularly great.
The best celebration you've ever seen. Look at this. Look at this form.
There's something particularly great about it when big fat heavyweights throw disgusting athletic spin kicks. Right? Like that hook kick by him. It's not just the fact that he lands it. The form on that thing's actually gorgeous.
Yeah.
Perfect form. Comes down with it, right? Which is what you want to do on a hook kick like that. You don't want to come straight across. You want to come down a little bit with it so that your heel's the part of your foot that's making contact. And he hits it brilliantly. Beautiful kick. Big fat dude. Does a front flip. What else can he say? Thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean,
big ups Mike Barnett.
That just puts a smile across your face. So I just had to show that for the folks that hadn't seen it. But yeah, I think that covers it for us this week. A lot of awesome games, I think, on the slate here. Some good differential in our picks, so something to look forward to as far as the records are concerned. And yeah, looking forward to a good Warriors-Bulls game tonight and good Friday night in general. So thank you all for joining us. Craig, you got anything to finish off with here?
LA Canada!
All right. Appreciate you all stopping by. If you're checking out the live stream, we also will be getting this posted up on YouTube as well. So if you missed any of the episode, check it out there. We will be back next week for episode 4. See what we got wrong, what we got right, what we could brag about, and what we bear our heads in shame for. This is Jay. I'm with Craig. This is Sports Clichés. Until next time.